Civilian Hokage, unstoppable from the start with 8 gates. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 226, Jufang Cuts Birds. The hurricane caused by the two wings was almost comparable to a large-scale wind escape technique. Just as the flames were about to engulf the ship, Uzumaki Karin, who was prepared, clasped her hands together. Water escape, water formation wall, clash, smoke billowed out. The defense, composed of flames and vast quantities of seawater, collided, producing a terrifying sound. Karin, well done. With a compliment, Suzumiya Musashi extended his right hand, and wind attribute chakra rapidly condensed. In the blink of an eye, a glowing disc appeared in his palm. With his toes on the deck, he leaped high. Seeing the strange bird approaching from behind the mist, an intense light flashed in his eyes. You asked for it, Wind Ki Yuan Absolute Slash, a 20-meter wide slash. When Suzumiya Musashi waved his right hand, the enormous wind-style disc shot forward with incredible speed. Whoosh, a flash of fear suddenly crossed the strange bird's murderous eyes. His naturally sharp perception told him that the massive wind ladder in front of him was definitely not as easy to handle as the fire ladder from earlier. Not to mention the sharp vibrations that accompanied the ninjutsu. This vibration was difficult for the human ear to perceive, but in his ears, it was like a thorn being pricked, making him slightly dizzy. Cry, the strange bird suddenly let out an even sharper cry, hoping to use sonic attacks to block the opponent's ninjutsu as before. However, such an attack left the blazing white disc completely unaffected. The enormous body continued on its original trajectory, hurtling toward him with extreme stability. Woof, the giant bird cried out again, but this time, there was panic and a hint of fear in the cry. The strange bird veered into the path, attempting to dodge the disc's attack. However, the enormous body it had once been so proud of had become a burden. Although Jufang Ki Yuanzan was large, his speed was not slow. When the strange bird tried to dodge, he shifted slightly as if he had anticipated it. A second later, Jufang Ki Yuanzan swiftly passed through the strange bird's panicked cry. Chi, a soft, inconspicuous sound. The strange bird and Jufang Ki Yuanzan crossed paths. Then, broken hair fell. Upon closer inspection, they saw that only one of the two sharp talons remained beneath the strange bird's belly, the other broken off at the thigh. The fracture was smooth, with bone and flesh clearly visible. As they approached, blood seemed to react and gush out. It rained blood from the sky. Cry, the strange bird shouted loudly. With intense anger. As one of the supreme lords in the maritime area for 100 miles around, it had been a long time since he had suffered such grievous injuries. He lowered his gaze and looked at Suzumiya Musashi. His enormous pupils revealed palpable anger and murderous intent. Under his gaze, Suzumiya Musashi's expression remained unchanged, and he leaped from the ship again. Wind chakra concentrated in his palm, and another familiar light appeared. Clea, the strange bird's whistling suddenly ceased, as if its neck had been strangled. Looking at a bright white disc that expanded again in Suzumiya Musashi's hand, the murderous intent in his eyes suddenly subsided, and his gaze became clear. The next instant, he flapped his wings, his body suddenly bent in the air, and he flew away swiftly. Run. Run fast. Bird lives matter. Although the origin of this group of humans is unknown, it's certain that humans definitely possess the capacity to threaten his life. With a swish, sound, Jufang Ki Yuanzan grazed the strange bird. Luckily, this time it dodged quickly, and aside from a tuft of hair that was shaved off, it wasn't seriously injured. Even so, the strange bird's heart sank, and it almost felt like urinating on the spot. Lee, screw you, Lee, I don't want to play anymore. The strange bird exhausted all its strength and ran for its life. After a while, only a black dot remained in the sky. Huh? Shianshin fell to the ground, looking like it had survived a disaster, finally safe. Look what you've accomplished, Uzumaki Karin said. If it were you, you should have attacked its lair and turned it into your summoning beast, or ripped out its fur and put it in a pot. Goodbye, Shianshin said. This monster is too big. I can't communicate with it even if I hand it over to you. We'll talk about it later, Karin pouted in dissatisfaction. With her temper, the silly bird dared to attack them first, so she had to retaliate. She looked at Suzumiya Musashi, ready to ask for his opinion. Suzumiya Musashi, I think what Karin said makes sense. Every day, underestimate your worth. Even if you can't summon it now, someday you will be able to. Karin, you will be responsible for detecting that beast's trail. We will pursue it. It attacked us first. Today it may be a spirit beast or a stewed pig. Uzumaki Karin, don't worry, just give me the address. Thanks to the fight earlier, Uzumaki Karin had memorized the chakra and scent of the strange bird. And unlike humans, this gigantic, strange bird wasn't good at hiding its tracks, so it wasn't difficult to catch. Several people followed the route indicated by Uzumaki Karin and began searching. A day later, the ship arrived in front of a huge island. Uzumaki Karin pointed to the island ahead and confirmed, the strange bird scent lingers here, it should be correct. Suzumiya Musashi nodded. Alright, let's go to the island. Several people prepared the boat and disembarked on the island. This island was much larger than the previous ones they had passed, with lush forests and overlapping mountains. From time to time, the roars of beasts could be heard. Walking through the forest, insects and animals could be seen preying on each other everywhere, and giant crocodiles and pythons clashed in the distance. Why do I feel like something's wrong? Uzumaki Karin suddenly asked quietly as she walked. I feel that way too, Shianshin walked cautiously and asked, aren't there too many animals here? Bye, you should be careful too. I don't mean that. Uzumaki Karin's face turned a little serious. It seems there's more than one powerful breath of life on this island. Isn't it worth taking a second look? Shianshin asked doubtfully. Are there other creatures as enormous as that strange bird? Uzumaki Karin shook her head. Just as Tenten breathed a sigh of relief, Uzumaki Karin spoke up. There's more than one. If my vague perception is correct, there are probably more than 10. Shianshin's eyes widened suddenly. You mean Duo Xiao? Chapter 227 On the Island. Uzumaki Karin focused, sensed again, and confirmed, there are at least 10 giant creatures on this island, breathing fresh air from the dense forest every day. Although she didn't think the giant creatures posed a great threat to Suzumiya Musashi, more than 10 was too many. Was someone on the island trying to induce labor? Master, what should we do? Should we continue? Suzumiya Musashi thought for a moment and said, continue. The matter of revenge is just talk, but the matter of the flying spirit beast is very important. If you manage to sign a contract with a powerful flying ninja beast, you can easily escape when you encounter common dangers. I'll scout the way, you stay back and be careful. Karin, pay attention to your surroundings and protect yourself. Understood? Suzumiya Musashi held his breath and advanced step by step. Just as Suzumiya Musashi and his group entered the island, a group of people were busy underground. Researchers in protective suits were moving about, machines were running at full speed, and pipes and instruments were whirring throughout the space as they worked. A fully protected staff member approached a man wearing glasses and said, Supervisor, everything is ready. The bespectacled supervisor looked at the information in his hand and confirmed, are there any problems with the equipment? No problem, we've checked it 3 times. What about the group of spirit beasts? Are there enough on the island? Enough. There are more than 10 large ninja beasts on the island right now, which is more than enough for them to eat. Good. The bespectacled manager closed the document. If nothing unexpected happens, today will be the day we witness the results of our research. All the hard work of many years depends on this one time. If something unexpected happens during the experiment, none of us will be able to escape. The researcher said confidently, don't worry, boss, the experiment won't be interrupted. Even if someone is blind enough to enter, they'll be devoured by those beasts. Besides, with it in Inoko here, even if there's an accident, we'll kill it. Thank goodness, the bespectacled supervisor said excitedly. After so many years of hard work, it's finally paying off. If the experiment goes well, we won't have to worry about the image of the great ninja village anymore. Your long-held wish will finally come true. The supervisor clapped his hands gently, drawing everyone's attention, and said loudly, everyone, thank you for your hard work during this time. After everyone this time, I can make the decision on behalf of the adults and give you all a vacation. By then, you'll have enough money to go back and see your families. Thank you, boss. Thank you, manager, director. Let's begin. We can't wait. Yes, director, our experiments are already thirsty. Good, the supervisor looked at his enthusiastic subordinates and a smile spread across his face. The experiment is ready to begin. Countdown, 30, 29, 28. As all the instruments were ready, the ticking of the stopwatch made everyone serious. Besides looking at the instruments in their hands, they all glanced in the same direction from time to time. In the center of this vast underground space, a huge glass container, 40 meters long, was embedded in the rock layer. Through the outer glass wall and the translucent culture medium, a huge silkworm purple-like creature lay peacefully in the container with its eyes closed. 10, 9, 8. As the countdown progressed, everyone's expressions became increasingly excited. They had waited too long for this. The supervisor looked at the creature in the container and said to the girl beside him, "Honoka, be ready. If anything unexpected happens, act immediately to ensure everything goes smoothly." Good, the pretty girl lowered her gaze slightly and said softly, "I know." 3, 2, 1, boom. A loud roar echoed throughout the underground space. The instrument shook uncontrollably, and ripples appeared in the liquid inside the glass container. What happened? What's going on? Did the instrument explode? The experimenters looked around in confusion, and many of the shy ones hid right under the table. The container in 2 steps. No. It's not because of the experiment, the movement is on the floor. The supervisor quickly analyzed the situation and gave an order. Group 2, Group 3, go out and see what's happening. Yes, isn't it really a crow's mouth? Why did an accident happen during the experiment? Shut up, whatever happens, with so many of you here, how can we rebel? A group of fully armed personnel moved swiftly through the underground passage to find out the cause of the boom. The giant python with green patterns crashed hard into the ground, causing the logs and earth to crack and splatter with a loud noise. On the other side, Uzumaki Karin hugged the snake's tail with both hands, her face beaming with excitement. Her red hair had long since come loose from her headband and was flying everywhere, and green chakra halos constantly emanated from her entire body. "I'll let you attack by surprise." Surprise noise. Attack. Let's see if you dare launch a surprise attack this time. How dare you bite me, Auntie? You're so brave. As Uzumaki Karin spoke, she grabbed the python's tail and whipped it relentlessly. The small body emanated a powerful aura and, with its immense strength, repeatedly hurled the python to the ground as if it were a piece of clay. "Karin, pay attention to your own condition," Suzumiya Musashi reminded her from a distance. "Remember what I told you, control. Control every muscle in your body and use your strength with maximum efficiency. Don't get too excited and don't hurt yourself." "Don't worry," Uzumaki Karin said confidently. "I remember, I won't hurt myself." Bang! Uzumaki Karin exerted force with both hands to slam the already confused python against a broken ground. "I feel great." Whoosh! The small figure lifted the python completely, and Uzumaki Karin controlled the chakra emanating from her feet, firmly anchoring her body to the ground, and suddenly began to spin. 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns. The speed increased, and the python's long body stretched out like a branch under the force of centrifugal force, faster and faster. The snake's twisted fangs sliced through the air, producing a sharp, crackling sound. Chapter 228, Beast Riots. Swish, swish, as the rotation accelerated, finally, when Uzumaki Karin felt she could hold on no longer, she suddenly released it. The giant python flew off like a ball of chain. Dozens of seconds later, a sound was heard, and a cloud of smoke and dust rose in the distance. Done. Approval of her strength. Good, improving quickly. Uzumaki Karin felt even prouder after receiving Suzumiya Musashi's confirmation. Suzumiya Musashi heard the roars of the beasts drawing ever closer and said, "We should go, Karin, let's look for that bird first." Uzumaki Karin didn't have time to rejoice. That long worm. If it hadn't suddenly jumped and startled me, perhaps we would have found the bird. Ninjutsu, river seal. With some difficulty, he suppressed the chakra that was bursting from his body and withdrew the 8 gates of ninjutsu from their open state. He felt his body weaken and realized it wasn't a big deal. Then he pointed in the direction, and they set off together. Roar, ang, chitter. As we sped up, the noises around us shifted. Tens of minutes later, Uzumaki Karin pointed to a hill ahead. "Right up there." Suzumiya Musashi didn't hesitate. "Let's go, over the hills." The familiar whinny was getting closer. In front of me was a huge nest made of stones and trees. When he saw some small, familiar figures of Suzumiya Musashi appear before him, he was stunned, not expecting the other part to actually be a A strange bird was chasing him across the vast ocean. Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dec. Great, I finally found you. Uzumaki Karin's face was full of murderous intent. Then he looked at Suzumiya Musashi. Brother, go ahead. Do it, Suzumiya Musashi, get out of the way. Suzumiya Musashi moved forward, but before he could say anything, the strange bird let out a panicked cry, spread its enormous wings, and tried to flee. But just as the wings spread, the movement suddenly stopped, and then they slowly retracted. Woof, the cries no longer had the arrogance and enthusiasm of before, but sounded somewhat low. Suzumiya Musashi, who had been planning to act, was a little confused. Just as he was wondering, the strange bird called out again. Suzumiya Musashi, why did he perceive a hint of a plea for mercy in that cry? Wasn't that right? Are all modern-day ninja beasts so cowardly? Hesitating, his eyes suddenly focused. The strange bird's wings weren't completely closed, but slightly raised, supporting its body like an old hen, as protecting something. Peering through the gap between its wings, I saw some small, furry, large ones, staring at me with big eyes. Oh, it has pups. Uzumaki Karin also noticed the scene. Huh? Shianshin suddenly didn't know what to do. Master, do you still intend to defeat me? Suzumiya Musashi looked at the strange bird in front of him. Although it was the other group who had initiated the attack, it seemed a bit inappropriate to start fighting there. He looked at the enormous body blocking the sunlight in front of him and gave the other a choice. Surrender or fight. Hey, Suzumiya Musashi held out his hand, and Tenten was stunned for a moment before she understood what the other group wanted, and quickly placed the treasure scroll in Suzumiya Musashi's hand. Suzumiya Musashi opened the scroll and spoke aloud. A great ninja beast, she already understood what Suzumiya Musashi meant. But he had no intention of surrendering. If you were Suzumiya Musashi, it would be fine. But becoming the summoning beast of a weak ninja was an insult to his dignity as Supreme Lord of the island. Buzz, Suzumiya Musashi calmly extended his right hand, and a large amount of wind attribute chakra condensed without dissipating, as if it were about to instantly become the absolute wind key elemental slash. Chirp, 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 the strange bird's unwavering gaze suddenly transformed into innocence. It stared in panic at the chakra in Suzumiya Musashi's hand, its enormous head nodding incessantly. Although it didn't speak human language, those present could understand what it meant. Completely destroyed. Seeing Suzumiya Musashi extend the scroll, it leaped forward on one leg, a drop of blood slowly dripping from the tip of its massive beak, which left its mark on the scroll. After becoming familiar, a contract is formed. Cry, the strange bird returned to the nest with a cry. Suzumiya Musashi asked Tenten, what did he say? Shianshin pouted and said disappointedly, he said that with his size, even if I signed a contract with him, I wouldn't be strong enough to channel him. Suzumiya Musashi smiled and stroked the back of Tenten's neck, saying, don't be discouraged. Even if you can't do it today, you will be able to someday. Master believes in you, that day isn't far off. Hey, what did he say? Shianshin's eyes widened, and he said, Master, he said there are many enemies coming this way. Let's leave quickly. Enemy, Suzumiya Musashi said, in that case, let him take us. After a few seconds, Shianshin said, no. He said there are people here who can control him, and it would be more dangerous if he flew away. Is there anyone else? Suzumiya Musashi frowned. As he thought, I heard the sound of the ground trembling in the distance. Roar. Ank. Seeing the group of ninja beasts gradually approaching, Suzumiya Musashi felt a little confused. My friends and I didn't provoke these beasts, did we? Why did they suddenly gather around me? Are they attacking me, or are they being controlled by someone? Karin, Tenten, Shiro, take care. As the other group surrounded him, he didn't plan to run away. He just wanted to see what would happen. Rumble, rumble, the ground shook. Enormous ninja beasts of various sizes ran and crawled, getting closer and closer. Suzumiya Musashi kept watching. He didn't hold back until the ninja beast was 100 meters away from him, roaring and charging at him with unyielding force. The wind chakra he had just used to scare the strange bird surged again and quickly concentrated in the palm of his hand. The center, then continued expanding. The sound gradually became higher-pitched. Suzumiya Musashi raised her right hand, and a bright white disc suddenly expanded. The buzzing was so high-pitched it was inaudible. In front of her, a giant spider 20 meters long was rapidly beating its limbs, its body covered in dark scales. As it struck the tips of its limbs, trees and rocks shattered into pieces. Beside the terrifying mouthparts, a pair of compound eyes emitted a malevolent glow. Chirp, the giant spider chirped excitedly and darted toward its prey. At the same time, a ferocious look flashed in Suzumiya Musashi's eyes, and she waved her right hand, sweeping away the Jufang Qi Yuanzan. Whoosh! Perhaps the excitement of the hunt clouded the spider's perception. Facing the flying white disc, it flapped its two front legs, intending to destroy it with its indestructible arthropod scales, as always. Hey, like a hot knife slicing through a straw mat. With a sharp sound as it broke through the obstruction, the giant spider, its proud, sharp front legs snapped off instantly. Several pairs of spider eyes suddenly opened. It finally realized something was wrong and wanted to hide, but it was too late. Shhhhhhh, dark limbs flew everywhere, leaving only the naked body, which crashed to the ground with a thud, raising a cloud of dust. There was still a giant beast roaring behind it, the ground was still shaking, and the spider, cut down to a spider stick, could no longer move. Apparently, the loss of its legs had caused it to lose its hearing. Chapter 229 Wei no Guo. After severing the spider's limbs, the light of the Jufang Qi Yuanzan dimmed considerably, but its power remained intact. Behind the spider, a giant gray and white furred wolf saw that the situation was not good, yelled woof, extended its limbs, and lunged to the ground. The wolf's head slammed into the earth, leaving a deep furrow, and its body became covered in mud. Although it seemed somewhat embarrassed, it luckily avoided the Jufang Qi Yuanzan's attack. A boar 50 meters away was not so lucky. Seeing the two in front of it fall to the ground one after the other, the boar, over 20 meters long, panted heavily, its red eyes blazing with brutality. It lowered its head slightly and kicked the ground even harder with its thick limbs. As the disk of wind reached its front, the enormous tusks in front of its mouth shot upward. Whoop! Jufang Qi Yuanzan finally encountered an obstacle. The disc collided with the sharp teeth, producing a sudden explosion. This time, Jufang Qi Yuanzan had finally run into a formidable opponent, and the momentum stalled. In midair, the sharp teeth and wind blades froze. Breaths. The boar's blood-red eyes revealed an almost human surprise. Then, panic set in. Instantly, the wind disc sliced through the tusks. Laugh. The wind disc instantly pierced through the skin and blood and flesh flew everywhere, leaving a deep bloody furrow on the pig's head before it finally ran out of energy and dissipated. Not far away, the giant grayish wolf that had skillfully dodged Hirohi Musashi's attack watched the scene with a flicker of relief and fear in its eyes at having survived the disaster. Fortunately, it was intelligent, otherwise, it would have ended up like these two pigs. With a single blow, the three giant beasts in front were either injured or forced to hide. This shocking scene caused the group of ninja beasts to turn. Some hesitated and stopped, looking at each other as if unsure whether to launch an attack. They didn't know that Suzumiya Musashi's chakra and the Zetsuki Yuan Zan only activated a few times. They only knew that if they launched an attack, they would likely end up like the previous ones. Just as the atmosphere was becoming tense, a sharp whistle sounded in the distance. Hearing it, the expressions of the giant beasts changed. After glancing at each other, they turned their menacing gaze back towards Suzumiya Musashi and the others. Woof! The whistle became sharper. A voice came from afar. Who dares to enter here? Come up and kill him. As the arrogant voice gradually drew closer, more than a dozen ninjas appeared before Suzumiya Musashi and the others. A fierce light flashed in Suzumiya Musashi's eyes. Who are you? You're not qualified to know who we are? Anyway, you were already dead the moment you walked in here. Go ahead. Don't leave any of these alive. At the cold command, more than a dozen ninjas silently advanced, chakra fluctuations appearing, each performing their own hand seals. Suzumiya Musashi's face darkened completely. Others didn't even ask. In that case, you can't blame him for acting. Buzz. The chakra accumulated in his hands suddenly shut out. In an instant, the brilliant white light ignited again. He raised his right hand and suddenly brandished it as the sequence of the Jufang Qi Yuan Zan grew and took shape. Whoosh. Even if the specific power of a large-scale ninjutsu 20 meters long is not something an ordinary ninja can withstand. The moment the Jufang Qi Yuan Zan was unleashed, the ninja team members realized something was wrong. But with their speed, they didn't have time to dodge the swift sweep of the 20-meter ninjutsu. Stop! The lead ninja's eyes widened in surprise, and before he could scream, the panic in his eyes transformed into fear. Then, he fell sideways like the giant gray wolf. Swish, the half-broken arm flew high. The Zetsukijin slash, an evolved jutsu of the Rasengan, is characterized by its ease of execution as a seal ninjutsu, and its extreme speed makes ordinary ninjas unable to control it effectively. As the enormous wind disc was about to sever the lead ninja's arm, the ninja following him hadn't even completed half of his seal. The powerful chakra aura was rapidly approaching, and the instinctive sense of crisis made them mimic the leader and swarm in all directions. The fastest managed to escape unharmed, but the slowest were injured by the powerful wind blades. There were also stubborn ninjas. When Jufang Kiyuan's hand approached, the seals on his hands had already formed, and several ninjutsu were executed with a hiss of chakra. We have so many ninjas, your ninjutsu alone can't defeat them all. With this thought in mind, several ninjas did not back down. Flames erupted and water gushed forth. Walls of earth rose rapidly, protecting the ninja in front. The disc of the wind blade passed by like a spinning saw. The flames and water split in two. The wind blade sliced through the earth walls for a moment shorter than the tusks of a giant boar. Sensing the enormous wave emanating from the ninjutsu, the hearts of several resisting ninjas were shaken. Then, a much dimmer white light shone before the eyes of several people. Plop, plop, the sound of something heavy falling to the ground was heard. What followed was a terrifying scream. The lead ninja, with his broken arm, watched the scene in horror. His body trembled constantly, and he couldn't tell if it was from his injuries or from the fear he felt. Then, in a panic, he shouted, "Hunego!" A pretty girl with short hair stepped forward from behind. She said calmly, "I'm here." A hint of fear and resentment flashed in the eyes of the armless ninja. Kill them all, the beautiful way Nagao said, "but, follow my orders." Yes, she took out a peculiar whistle and put it to her mouth. A woo-woo sounded, accompanied by a slight fluctuation of chakra. In the field, the group of ninja beasts suddenly stirred. Under the influence of the chakra fluctuations, their eyes glowed with a faint red light, panting and gradually approaching Suzumiya Musashi. Even so, they didn't completely lose their composure. The gray wolf, whom they had previously dodged, continued walking in front of Suzumiya Musashi. Although its steps were swift, it didn't get any closer, as if it feared Suzumiya Musashi's methods. "Inoka! Don't hold back, or I'll report you to the adults." Seeing this, the ninja with the broken arm shouted loudly. A flicker of compassion crossed Wei Nagao's eyes, who could only helplessly carry out the order. He clasped his hands together, his momentum increasing. As the special chakra fluctuations surged within his body, when they became strong enough, long lines composed of runes suddenly extended from his body. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Covet, Fight. Roar, runes pierced the bodies of the giant beasts. The beasts' roars and shrieks continued. The wasp, as large as a chariot, flapped its wings and hurtled towards Suzumiya Musashi at breakneck speed. Suzumiya Musashi responded with intense focus. This time, he didn't activate the Jufang Kiyuanzan. The wasp was extremely fast, and he was worried that his opponent would dodge his Jufang Kiyuanzan attack, and this technique consumed too much chakra. Lightning chakra enveloped his legs, protecting his own. As the wasp rapidly approached, chakra circulated through his limbs, and his super strength was ready to be unleashed. In an instant, the wasp was in front of him, and its razor-sharp stinger, like a black sword, was aimed at Suzumiya Musashi's chest. Damn! A loud noise echoed. The moment his fist and the tip of its tail collided, it was like a clash of steel, and Suzumiya Musashi's heart lurched. The speed of the beast's tail sting was far greater than he had imagined. They each took a few steps back, and Suzumiya Musashi watched the wasp approach again, forming hand seals and leaving after images. Vigorous flames suddenly filled the time limit. Suzumiya Musashi dodged to the side, and just as he moved away, the wasp had broken through the flame barrier. Is it possible to contain fire style? Suzumiya Musashi thought to himself. He had originally thought the opponent's wings would cause problems in the fire ladder, but due to the opponent's terrifyingly high flash rate, the flames could no longer get close. This is the drawback of a lack of power concentration in ninjutsu. Upon encountering an extremely powerful force, it loses its effect. Just like his physical abilities, Gaara's sand defense and the wasp wings before him, the wasp cut through the flames, quickly fixed on Suzumiya Musashi, and swooped down again. Behind it, more ninja beasts were approaching. "I'll do it," Uzumaki Karin's voice suddenly boomed. Immediately afterward, 2 diamond blocks sliced through the air and met the swiftly flying wasp. They quickly surrounded its offensive path. At the sudden attack, the wasp sensed a hint of danger. Before it could understand where the danger was coming from, the diamond chain suddenly tightened. Clash, the chains surrounded it on all sides and, with no escape possible, bound it tightly. Uzumaki Karin said, "Brother, I'll take care of this, you take care of the others." At that moment, Suzumiya Musashi wasted no time and went straight for his next target. The second thing that approached him was a centipede. It was less than 2 meters tall, but its body was between 40 and 50 meters long. Its densely packed legs made his scalp tingle just looking at them. The centipede was also quite fast. But compared to the speed and agility of the wasp, it was a bit slower, and most importantly, it didn't have wings. "I can't believe the fire staircase can't burn you to death." Suzumiya Musashi formed hand seals again with both hands. Only this time the seal was different from the previous one. He separated his hands and made seals with his left and right hands, respectively, independently of each other. Fire style, explosive flame. Wind style, wild tornado. 2 ninjutsu, one with his left hand and one with his right, were completed simultaneously with both hands. He had been consciously practicing his multitasking and distraction-free abilities for a long time. One is to increase learning efficiency, another to exercise mental strength. Another is to use combined ninjutsu in the future. A very good skill if used well. If he fails to develop his own lineage limit in the future, mastering multitasking can be considered an additional means. However, he could only perform some conventional ninjutsu because he was doing several things at once, and most of the time, it would be faster than simply swinging his fists. Today was the first time he used combined ninjutsu against the enemy. A blazing flame erupted, accompanied by a swirling gust of wind. The wind fanned the flames, and in the blink of an eye, the centipede was engulfed. "Ah!" A pained cry erupted from the flames. The next instant, the burning black centipede had suddenly leaped from one side of the flame, mouth parts crossed, attempting to run towards Suzumiya Musashi. The wind howled. The next second, the strong wind swept the flames away and engulfed them again, the other side. Stunned by Shianshin's supernatural power at its full strength. Not far away, the armless ninja who witnessed this scene suddenly opened his eyes. Then, a look of ecstasy appeared in his eyes. "Sealing technique, this is a sealing technique, Hunako, bring her down. You must bring her down, a genius who knows how to use sealing techniques. Is this the legendary diamond sealing technique? Is he a descendant of the Uzumaki clan? How huge gains. Huge gains, with you, our experiment will be foolproof, come on. Those who are still alive, come, don't waste time, nothing else matters, I just want this woman." Uzumaki Karin noticed the ninja with a broken arm and looked crazy. Upon learning that the other party planned to take advantage of her, a look of disgust crossed her face. Due to her childhood experiences, she hated the feeling of being coveted. In that moment of anger, her chakra production surged once more. Wasp, who was still struggling, could no longer move. Shianshin struck him on the back of the neck several times, and he was clearly dying. "Shianshin, come back," Bai called out softly. The air temperature suddenly began to drop. Ice mirrors formed in the space and, under Bai's control, spread around the few people. Then, Bai's body merged with the ice mirror. Shianshin dealt with the wasp, quickly retreated, and entered the ice mirror space with Uzumaki Karin. In the ice mirror space, Bai's abilities would be unleashed to their fullest potential. Ordinary attacks would be ineffective against him, and he could also defend Uzumaki Karin and the other person. "First, don't go out," Shianshin replied. "I know, don't worry." The ninja beast that had been lunging at her was no longer within reach. Instead of working with Uzumaki Karin to take on one or two, it was better to protect herself so as not to distract the master. "Karin, how are you? Are you exhausted?" Shianshin asked with concern. The power of the diamond seal was enormous, but it drained a lot from Uzumaki Karin. "It's nothing," Uzumaki Karin said, "rest a little." "Tenten, how are you?" "Me. Of course I'm fine. My strange strength hasn't drained much of my energy, but my hand hurts a lot." "Good. I'll go out and help my brother when I've recovered a bit. Wait? There's no need to wait, Tenten said. Karin, don't underestimate me. I still have a few tricks up my sleeve. Method. Shianshin chuckled and said, you forgot, my brother just gave it to me. With that, he bit his finger and made hand seals. Ninjutsu, psychic technique, bang, a Jian Duofen, asleep and leaning against a sickle, suddenly appeared in the ice mirror space. The fluctuation of space slowly woke Jian Duofen. Feeling the cold temperature and the ice mirrors around him, he wiped his saliva and said groggily, ice cream, next time I'll let Shianshin treat me to ice cream. Sip. Chapter 231 Battle, 2. Looking at the stunned Jian Duofen, Shianshin approached and began rubbing his face. Don't fall asleep. Kamato, we're in trouble. Ugh, trouble. What trouble? Kan Duofeng jumped up with an exclamation and looked around. Shianshin, we're on an island and we've run into a group of enemies. Jian Duofen, please help us. Ice cream, all you can eat. Kan Duofeng's eyes lit up. Really? Keep your word. Deal. Jian Duofeng wiped the saliva from his mouth, grabbed the scythe, and ran off. Originally, as Shianshin's contractual partner, he wouldn't refuse the other party's request for help, not to mention there was an ice cream reward. His scythe was thirsty. Jian Duofeng stepped out of the ice mirror with complete confidence. The next instant, Mao's face froze. This isn't the situation, is it? He had originally thought that the group of enemies Shianshin was talking about was a group of ninjas wearing the same uniform. Their methods might be very powerful, but they would be easily torn apart if touched. However, the enemy that appeared before him was a bit larger than he had imagined. There were blind bears, 20-meter-long wolves, tigers, leopards, cows, horses, beetles as big as small houses, and scorpions. Swallow? Jian Duofeng swallowed hard. It's not stressful. It's just that it's my first time encountering so many big guys, so I feel a little uneasy. Kill her for me. And that giant white-haired rat, kill it for me. The arrogant roar paralyzed Kamatafeng's face, and then he encountered a group of normal-sized ninjas behind the giant beast. Seeing this group of ninjas, Kamatafeng seemed to have finally found his target and suddenly raised his scythe. Extremely angry, he exclaimed, you're the giant rat, your whole family are rats. Ninjutsu, wind harvest, swoosh, a wind blade about 30 centimeters long erupted the instant the scythe swung furiously against the ground and trees. Tudun, Tuli Ubi, a solid wall of earth suddenly rose, blocking several ninjas. The wind blade sliced through the earth wall, splattering dirt and creating deep furrows. After a while, in an instant, the earth wall was already crumbling. This giant rat's wind escape technique is also very powerful, someone shouted from the crowd. Don't worry, we have plenty of people. Lightning release, thunder serpent, a sinuous curve swiftly attacked Jian Duofeng. The latter's feet glowed, and he was gone in the blink of an eye. Then, he brandished the scythe in his hand again. Another wave of wind blades hissed. This time, the earthen wall, which had barely held, could no longer resist and shattered with a loud crash. Blades of wind sprayed, dirt and rocks flew, and in the blink of an eye, the ninja team was caught again and all were injured. Chief, what should we do? It seems we can't defeat him. The ninja had a fresh wound on his face, blood dripping from it and a crazed murderous intent in his eyes. We can't beat them, but they can. Then, he suddenly shouted, Huneguro. The girl who was performing sealing techniques to control the ninja beast not far away frowned, and the disgust in her eyes was completely undisguised. Scream, scream, scream. All day long you do is scream. Someone got into trouble and made me clean up the mess. Bumbling, Wei Nago had been patient with this ninja leader for a long time. If he weren't his superior and could report to him at any time, he wouldn't listen to his orders. At that moment, hearing the other party call for help again, he hesitated for a moment and decided to pretend he didn't hear them. Inako, the shouts returned, but the girl ignored them. Well, the beast's roar is too loud, so it's normal that some noises can't be heard. I heard. Explain this to your superiors when you get back. Damn it, after a good while without a response, the ninja with a broken arm almost assumed she was playing deaf. He said furiously, I'll report you when I get back. Do you really think you're so great just because you have a talent for sealing? Once we catch this redhead, you won't be the only one I can seal. I wonder if you still dare to be as stubborn as you were today. Let's retreat first. He decided to let the beasts consume the enemy first, while he and the others temporarily dodged the attack. When your opponent's energy is depleted, it's time for you to enter the scene. Boom, boom, boom. Through the valleys, giant beasts continued charging. Kama-Dua Fang used all his wind escape techniques. For an instant, the dense wind escape techniques temporarily suppressed the beasts, making it difficult to approach. Shianshin, this blonde guy so powerful. Uzumaki Karin observed Kama-Dofu's strength through the ice mirror and couldn't hide her astonishment. She hadn't expected that an opponent who seemed ordinary could stop such a powerful group of beasts in battle. She knew that the ninja beast Suzumiya Musashi had specially selected for Tenten wouldn't be weak, but she hadn't expected it to be this strong. If she hadn't chosen the path of the 8 gates, even she would have envied such a summoned beast. I just found out about this too. Shianshin also watched the scene in amazement. At that moment, she finally understood why Suzumiya Musashi had warned her earlier. In the future, if you use the summoning scythe in battle, remember to tell it. You're clear about whether you want to destroy the enemy or not. She was still just a Jinan. If she summoned Kamatekaze in a Jinan battle without clearly explaining why, it would undoubtedly be a massacre. She muttered, "No, I can't just give it ice cream. I should think about ordering this when I see something delicious and fun in the future. This is my close friend, who has been with me my whole life." On the other hand, with the execution of Suzumiya and Musashi's combined ninjutsu, the centipede's life came to an end. Under the combined power of wind and fire ninjutsu, it was difficult for it to escape the ninjutsu's reach and tried to burrow underground, but it was discovered in time by Suzumiya Musashi, who continued to exert her strange power on the ground. In the end, they successfully defeated it before the other ninja beasts could surround it. They would definitely try to find out what the centipede was, also one of the giant beasts on the island. It tastes like. Roar, the giant bear roared and crushed with its enormous fist like a hammer. Suzumiya Musashi had no intention of greeting it and quickly retreated at once. He wouldn't take it seriously. Even if they attacked together, it wasn't impossible to solve the problem as long as he used his full strength. But if this happened, not to mention the safety of Shianshin and the others, it would also be a considerable drain on him. Observing the faint red light in the ninja beast's eyes, Suzumiya Musashi turned his gaze toward the short-haired girl in the distance. The sealing technique on the opponent's body and the strange energy were the source of the ninja beast's unease. Chapter 232 Battle 3. Catch the thief first, then capture the king. The short-haired girl looked up as if she'd noticed something and met Suzumiya Musashi's piercing gaze. In an instant, she understood what the other person was thinking. Dangerous. She saw Suzumiya Musashi's strength and knew she was definitely no match for him. The next instant, the chakra in the girl's hand began to fluctuate, and the giant beasts around her suddenly turned and swiftly protected her. Aren't you going to fight head-on? It's not up to you. Suzumiya Musashi sensed the chakra in his body. After the battle just now, more than half of his chakra had been consumed. If he relied on the physical technique of lightning release, he could still hold out for a while. If he used absolute wind energy slash, he could only execute it twice at most before his chakra was depleted. In an instant, Suzumiya Musashi made a decision. Now was not the time to conserve chakra. Wind chakra rapidly concentrated in her hands, and her body shifted backward to dodge the giant bear's attack. A small white light quickly formed in her hands. Then it grew rapidly. When the 20-meter diameter giant disc reappeared, the red eyes of the giant beasts who had witnessed the power of this spell became much brighter. Swoosh! Suzumiya Musashi swung her right hand violently. The enormous disc of wind blades flew swiftly toward the short-haired girl. Was ripped apart as it was sliced, and earth and rocks were swept away by the wind blades. Along the way, several giant beasts rolled and crawled to avoid the attack, and the ground trembled for a moment. Although the girl's control over them was strong, it wasn't enough to kill them outright. One after another, the giant beasts jumped sideways or lay down on the ground. Even the giant beasts closest to Wei-no-Ka constantly resisted her control, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Wei-no-Ka knew she couldn't fight back with all her might. She could never stop the power that terrified these giant beasts. In an instant, the fluctuations in the sealing technique shifted again. The nearest giant ape suddenly grabbed her hand and lunged to the side. Shhhhhhh, blood gushed out, soaking the ground, and the smell of blood was so strong it was pungent. Wherever Zhufang Qiyuansun passed, all obstacles vanished, and there was no longer any obstacle between Suzumiya Musashi and Honoka. Not much chakra remained, And Suzumiya Musashi didn't waste a second. With a whoosh, she rushed toward the Honoka and the giant ape in the blink of an eye, in an instant. In a second, Suzumiya Musashi arrived in front of the giant ape. Roar, roared the furious giant ape. Bang, ah, roared the giant ape in pain. Suzumiya Musashi struck the giant ape's thigh. Under the effect of his supernatural power, the ape's enormous body suddenly rebounded upward. It gave up. If it hadn't been for the other sealing technique protecting him, he would have been able to crush it with a closed fist. Bang, another powerful punch. Ah! The giant ape let out a heart-wrenching groan. It was in midair, its entire body curled into a ball. The next instant, it opened its bloodshot eyes wide and hurled the Honoka it was carrying at Suzumiya Musashi without hesitation, as if tossing a hot potato. Then, like a round boulder, it crashed into the distant valley below. Boom, ignoring the giant ape who had received a critical soul hit. Suzumiya Musashi stared at the Honoka that had been thrown at him. A lightning bolt coursed through his body, and he hurtled toward it. At that moment, Wainaguo, which had been circling in the air, suddenly stopped in a strange way. Runes spread from its body, emitting powerful fluctuations of power. Seeing Suzumiya Musashi rapidly approaching, a glimmer of success and cunning appeared in Honoka's eyes. Seal, swoosh, the chakra was consumed without reserve, and the runes formed strings that filled the space. In an instant, a gleam flashed in Wainaguo's eyes, and he activated the sealing technique with all his might, swiftly sealing the space in front of him and around him. Sealing runes as if he had fallen into a trap. Success, Wainaguo's eyes lit up. Although you are very powerful, you still underestimate the sealing technique. You have very little chakra left now, you can't run away, can you? A smile played on Inoka's lips. An instant later, a voice suddenly sounded in front of him. I never underestimated the sealing technique. You underestimate me, little one. What? Wainaguo was horrified. Then, a scene shocked him deeply. He saw beams of golden light suddenly burst from the envelope of his sealing technique. When the golden light shone brightly, his sealing runes seemed to have seen the Emperor. They instantly retreated and allowed the golden light to spread freely. Then, the chains extended. You really know the sealing technique too? Wainaguo's eyes widened as if he'd seen a ghost. Since when did the sealing technique become commonplace? The red-haired girl from a moment ago could do it, but this handsome, strong man in front of me could too. Moreover, the opponent's sealing technique, no matter how you looked at it, was far superior to his own. Mastered. Clash. Golden chains extended one after another. The sealing rune that had originally enveloped Suzumiya Musashi automatically slipped off like an oversized raincoat. Who are you? Wainaguo shouted. At that moment, many speculations arose in his mind. We were investigating on a secluded island, far from the city, when a group of ninjas suddenly appeared. Not only was it a coincidence, but two of them also possessed advanced sealing techniques. It didn't seem like a coincidence at all. Were they from the 5 great hidden villages? Or from a hostile lord? Are they here to steal the results of our research? Conspiracies raced through Wainaguo's mind. Then, golden chains wrapped around her and suddenly tightened. With a quadra, she was tightly bound. Wainaguo still wanted to struggle, but she was horrified to discover that not only her body, but even the little chakra she had left seemed to have vanished in that moment, and she could no longer feel anything. Let me go, we have something to discuss, said Suzumiya Musashi, alert to the beast's sneak attack. You didn't mean to discuss something just now, misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding, Wainaguo rushed to say. That stupid girl said it all. He and I aren't the same kind of people. If you want trouble, go after him, not me. Please don't kill me, okay woo woo woo. Chapter 233 Base. When Honoka was suppressed by Suzumiya Musashi's sealing technique, the giant beasts he controlled also regained consciousness. They all wore expressions of fear and didn't dare advance. They stared at each other, somewhat confused. The question was, if a fight is halfway through and the leader is defeated, should we continue fighting? They couldn't decipher the question for a moment, but the sense of danger the human man inspired was real. Roar moo! The giant beasts growled one by one. He was ready to leave, his feet skimming the ground anxiously. As he schemed, the distance between him and Suzumiya Musashi and the others grew ever greater. In a few seconds, he would probably disappear from sight. When Suzumiya Musashi and the others saw this, they felt a wave of relief. As he popped a soldier's pill into his mouth to replenish his energy, Suzumiya Musashi asked Wei Negao. Who are you? What are you doing here? You're asking me, Wei Negao said incredulously. Don't you know? How would I know? Suzumiya Musashi, puzzled, raised his eyebrows. Stand up and tell me. Fine, I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Wei Negao understood the situation perfectly and explained it as precisely as possible. It turns out they are a force under the command of a certain adult and have been conducting secret research on the island. They want to use sealing techniques and artificial reproduction to obtain a deterrent force comparable to that of the tailed beasts and transform the landscape of the ninja world. To achieve this, they spent several years traveling to isolated islands abroad, controlling a vast number of ninja beasts, consuming enormous quantities of resources, and kidnapping countless children to select geniuses capable of learning sealing techniques. According to the plan, they were about to implement the most crucial part, allowing it, the juvenile body of the ultimate summoning beast, to absorb the controlled ninja beast and incubate it. If the plan succeeded, a new revolution could soon begin in the ninja world. After hearing Inoka's explanation, Suzumiya Musashi asked, "Who do you mean by adult?" "I don't know," Wei Negao replied. "I usually only see the boss and the boss's boss. As for who the master is, we can't ask until the plan succeeds." Seeing Suzumiya Musashi's dissatisfaction, he hurriedly said, "Wait. Although I've never seen him, it's not hard to guess, from the leaders and others' words, that it must be a certain lord, or perhaps several lords might join in. That's all I know. I really don't know which prince it is." Suzumiya Musashi hesitated for a moment and said, "So you were kidnapped too?" Yes, Wei Negao nodded quickly. "So I had no choice but to do it. Please be magnanimous and don't kill me." "Okay, Wei Negao." A loud shout came from afar. "Do you want to die?" Suzumiya Musashi turned around and saw that it was the ninja with a broken arm. After the giant beast retreated, Bai removed the ice crystal from the magic mirror. With the combined efforts of Kamatafang and Shianshin, the ninjas were no match for him. After being subdued, they awaited the attack. At that moment, the opponent and the 4 remaining ninjas were tied up, fell to the ground, and screamed loudly. "When I report this to the adults, do you know what the consequences will be?" Wei Negao sneered and said, "Now you're tied up just like me, so why are you still so arrogant? Report. Wait until you can return alive before you tell me. Who knows, your master will only hear your little report in his dreams." The armless ninja was furious, and the next instant, Kamadofu knocked him unconscious with the back of his scythe. Seeing this, Inoka breathed a sigh of relief. "Master, how should we deal with this group of people?" Shianshin asked. Suzumiya Musashi thought for a moment and said, "Take him first." Then he turned to look at Wei Negao and said, "You'll show me the way later." "Let's go to the testing base you mentioned," Wei Negao said without hesitation. "No problem, I'll lead you right away." After resting for a while, Suzumiya Musashi and the others waited for their chakra to recover and then set off for the base under Inoka's guidance. On the way, Suzumiya Musashi asked, "Are there more people at the base?" "Yes," Wei Negao immediately replied, "but don't worry, everyone who can fight is here. The rest are just researchers, and then there's the young psychic beast. There's no threat to you. The only troublesome one is the director of the research base." Suzumiya Musashi asked, "Which supervisor is powerful?" Wei Negao shook his head and said, "The supervisor's ability is fairly average, but he's mastered a seal. After kidnapping us, he implanted it in our brains. He can control me and those kids. My sealing technique can control ninja beasts, which is also the ability of the seal. Otherwise, I would have escaped a long time ago." Half an hour later, led by Wei Negao, the group finally arrived at the underground research base. The hidden door opened thanks to Wei Negao's intervention, and several people in work clothes immediately looked out. "Inako, you're back. How's everything outside? Has the problem been resolved?" Wei Negao nodded. "It's been resolved. Great, the experiment can proceed smoothly." "Hurry up, I'm in a hurry to get home to my wife," one researcher said cheerfully. But he received no response from the others. Women and a large white furred rat. There were also some familiar but sad faces. "This, enemy attack," shouts were heard. Panic broke out, with the uniformed researchers stumbling and crawling to avoid the attack, wishing their parents hadn't given them 2 extra legs. "And the enemy? Are you kidding? I'm a scientific researcher, but I don't earn money to fight." Chapter 234 Destruction. Suzumiya Musashi let these people hide here and there. He calmly observed the surroundings of the experimental base. At first, he thought the experimental base might be as dark and bloody as Orochimaru's laboratory, but he hadn't expected it to be much cleaner. Later, he thought about it and realized that, after all, this was a study on psychic animals, not the human body. As he pondered this, he continued observing, and when he passed in front of a transparent container, he suddenly stopped. Then his face darkened. This is a cylindrical container. The container is about the size of an ordinary bucket and is filled with culture medium. A small brain nucleus is suspended in the clear liquid. I had some bad suspicions in my mind. He looked ahead. There are many containers like this. The most common ones are brain nuclei, but there are also heads and entire torsos. Suzumiya Musashi's face paled. At first, the supervisor is using it to study seals. Those with memorial value will become specimens. No further comment needed, Suzumiya Musashi said coldly. Click, click, the sound of leather shoes striking the floor gradually drew closer, followed by a dissatisfied voice. Honoka, why is it you again? Last time you tried to escape, but I spared your life thanks to your exceptional talent. Why did you bring people today? Do you really want to die that badly, boss? A sudden shout came from behind. The man with a broken arm, bound by Uzumaki Karin and held in her hand, suddenly yelled, Anoka betrayed you. She brought these people to overthrow you. You have to make the decision for us. Boss, oh, the bespectacled manager frowned slightly and glared at Waynoka with piercing eyes. If she kills the other group, the others at the base won't have as much talent for sealing. Her seal. Boss. This redhead knows how to seal. Her talent is far greater than Waynaga's, the man with a broken arm hurriedly recalled. She also knows a kind of golden chain sealing technique, which is suspected to be a vortex. Oh, Suzumiya Musashi flashed with a single step. With such force, the head of the man with the broken arm instantly slammed into the ground, and he was slightly outmatched in the struggle with the ground. Red and white flow. The sudden change caused the atmosphere in the field to stagnate. The faces of the 4 surviving ninjas instantly paled and began to tremble with fear. Only Hunagawa felt no fear upon seeing this scene. Instead, his eyes lit up, as if he'd eaten a popsicle in the middle of summer and felt completely refreshed. The world seemed much more pleasant to look at. The glasses supervisor surveyed the scene before him and smiled coldly. Haha, you've got a bad temper, don't worry, you'll be much calmer once I put you in the bin. I like this gift from the Uzumaki clan, thank you very much. As a token of my gratitude, I will give you a larger container so you can live with more space. Suzumiya Musashi didn't want to communicate with the other party. He said coldly, kill them all, no one will be left alive. Suzumiya Musashi spoke. Tenten was still hesitating, but Uzumaki Karin and Haku had already carried out his orders without hesitation. 1,000 kunai flashed by, and the eyes of the 4 remaining ninjas opened wide, gradually losing their vitality. The bespectacled manager observed the scene, and although he wasn't angry, there was a glimmer of cruelty in his eyes. Courting death. With a cold snort, he formed hand seals. Then, right in the center of his eyebrows, a speck of light grew stronger and stronger, gradually forming an intricate pattern. Careful, he's trying to control me, Waynago said hurriedly. The next second, a beam of light illuminated between his eyebrows. The pattern was similar to that of the glasses supervisor, but simpler. It's over, Waynoka exclaimed, and before losing consciousness, she looked to Suzumiya Musashi for help. Save me, Karin, Suzumiya Musashi called out softly. Then, they both attacked at the same time. Uzumaki Karin placed one hand on Inoka's torso and Suzumiya Musashi the other on her forehead. As for the power of sealing techniques, the skill of the talented Uzumaki Karin, especially the diamond seal, was no less than hers, and might even be a step ahead. With a longer time, she had a temporary advantage. At that moment, they both attacked simultaneously, using sealing techniques on 2 fronts. In an instant, chakra lines appeared on Waynoka's body. Upon executing the sealing technique, the aura that had just emanated from Waynaga's body rapidly weakened. The body's chakra calmed down again, and even her mental power had cooled down. It was completely blocked, and he could no longer exert his power. Damn it, the confidence on the bespectacled supervisor's face finally shifted. He hadn't expected that, besides Uzumaki Karin, even Suzumiya Musashi knew sealing techniques, and that his achievements were so strong. His forehead seal had never been suppressed by sealing magic. But now was not the time to panic. He sensed the power fluctuations in Wei Nagao's body and knew he could no longer place his hopes in the other. The next instant, he turned and ran without hesitation. "Just wait for me." After saying that, he disappeared from his side in the blink of an eye. Uzumaki Karin, he ran away. Suzumiya Musashi, probably not. Finally, upon completing the sealing technique, Wei Nagao closed his eyes and fainted. Shianshin grabbed the other person and asked, "Master, are you alright?" "Fine," Shianshin said. "Master, what method did that person use a moment ago?" Suzumiya Musashi thought for a moment and guessed, "It must be the so-called seal. Judging by the effect, it's similar to the Hyuga clan's caged bird, and probably the same approach as the Nemesis tongue eradication technique. However, the spell's power shouldn't be as strong as the caged bird's. The caged bird can't be destroyed by a seal spell, that's right. If this person's skills reach the level of a caged bird, along with the ability to control ninja beasts, they'll be very well known in the ninja world." Uzumaki Karin asked, "What if I don't continue? What should we do?" Suzumiya Musashi replied coldly, "Of course, we should completely destroy them." Flames rose. The raging flames burned away the sin and turned everything to ash. Kamen Duofeng, protect Shianshin and the others for a time. Jian Duofeng placed the scythe on his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, leave it to me." "Are you happy with the burning?" "Don't worry, this fire is just the right time to bury you." After a moment, the supervisor, wearing glasses, disappeared and reappeared in front of everyone, speaking ominously. Compared to before, he no longer looked elegant or dignified. His thin figure was much thinner than before, and he stared intently at Suzumiya Musashi. The wrinkles between his eyebrows flashed with an intense, strange red light. "This is your grave." As soon as he uttered those words, the base shook violently. Chapter 235 Monsters, Fusion. Boom, the base shook uncontrollably. Various instruments and materials crashed to the ground, engulfed in flames. The bespectacled manager ignored all of this and glared fiercely at Suzumiya Musashi. "Come out, my treasure, an existence that will subvert the ninja world. Let you ignorant ones witness the power of the future." Bang, bang, bang. A tremor was heard, as if something heavy had struck the ground. Then, a monster appeared behind the bespectacled supervisor. Uzumaki Karin watched it from afar and felt nauseous. It was an enormous monster, over 10 meters tall. Although not as large as the previous groups of beasts, its appearance was truly hideous. Its body was hunched, its skin wrinkled, and a sticky liquid constantly oozed from it. Slippery, thick tentacles extended in front of it, pounding the ground as they dragged it forward. Uzumaki Karin couldn't help but say, "Is this your treasure? It's too ugly." "Ugh, ha. What do you know? It's a power superior to yours." Trembled before such great power, Suzumiya Musashi frowned as he observed the scene. Although he too felt disgust, his reaction was better than Uzumaki Karin's. After all, he already had some vague guesses before the other appeared. "Be careful," Suzumiya Musashi warned. "This monster seems to have the ability to absorb living beings." "Haha, it seems you know a lot," the bespectacled supervisor smiled. "But what can we do if we know? We're all going to die." The tentacles on his chest suddenly extended. Boom, the ground suddenly exploded. Before the attack arrived, Suzumiya Musashi abruptly stepped back to dodge the opponent's attack. Later, he approached Uzumaki Karin and the others, holding two of them, one in each hand, and quickly retreated. Jian Duofeng followed closely behind with Shianshin. Boom, 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 ha. "Why are you running? Still so arrogant? You were so proud a moment ago. Why are you scared at the sight of my baby?" Suzumiya Musashi ignored the others' curses and, along with Kamadofu, guided the three of them to quickly dodge. The monster's attack wasn't weak, but its speed seemed to be average at the moment. When it used its lightning escape ability to its fullest, the opponent couldn't contain it for the time being. After a few moments, the experimental base finally couldn't withstand the violent vibration and collapsed. Suzumiya Musashi and the others finally retreated before the base crumbled. "Shianshin, try to communicate with that giant bird," Suzumiya Musashi said urgently. Shianshin was stunned to hear this, but, "Master, didn't you say that my chakra isn't yet at the level required to summon it?" Suzumiya Musashi replied, "Try it. Now that we're so close, perhaps your chakra can withstand it." Hearing this, Shianshin no longer hesitated. He quickly bit his finger and released all of his chakra at once. Ninjutsu, psychic summoning technique. The chakra was consumed rapidly, and Xianshan's was completely depleted in an instant. Ignoring the tremendous fatigue emanating from his body, Xianshan nervously looked at what was in front of him. Finally, his expectations were not disappointed. With a bang and a violent burst of smoke, a giant bird suddenly appeared before several people. "Is that you? What are you looking for now?" If she hadn't died, it could take the girl many years to successfully summon him. Unexpectedly, after a brief period of not seeing each other, the other party had already channeled. Then, she looked around and suddenly felt that it was familiar. "It seems, is this place only a few minutes from where I was a moment ago?" "It's too late to explain," urged Suzumiya Musashi. "Take Tenten and the others and escape first." As the giant bird pondered, it suddenly spotted the menacing monster and the bespectacled supervisor not far away. Its body trembled instantly, and a familiar feeling of dread surged in its heart. "Hurry! Don't delay," urged Suzumiya Musashi. The monster's abilities were very strange, and he himself didn't dare approach it easily. With the others there, he didn't feel at ease at all. Luckily, he didn't need to pressure it. The giant bird had no intention of staying put as soon as it saw the monster. It would be devoured. After Xianshan and some of the others climbed onto its back, it didn't hesitate for a moment, flapped its enormous wings, and soared into the sky. The tentacle that followed it almost coiled around its legs. Seeing this, the giant bird felt a sudden heat in its lower abdomen and nearly urinated. Boom! He dodged the tentacle's attack again. Suzumiya Musashi looked at the monster in front of him, controlled by the bespectacled supervisor, frowned, and considered how to deal with it. The 8 gates of ninjutsu had been eliminated at first. Kiyuan-zan gradually took shape. Suzumiya Musashi fixed his gaze on the bespectacled supervisor and the monster, searching for an angle of attack that would allow him to defeat them both in a 1-on-2. "Ha, I know what you're planning. Stop daydreaming, your ninjutsu looks good, but that's all," a hiss. And just as Jufen Kiyuan-zan was about to break free, a tentacle suddenly extended from the monster's body, wrapped around the bespectacled man, and, in the next instant, pressed him against its chest. To Suzumiya Musashi's slightly surprised expression, the bespectacled manager was absorbed by the monster. Shhhhhh. The moment the tentacles touched the bright white disc, the sound of sharp, hard objects merged into one. The tentacles fell to the ground. Immediately afterward, Jufen Kiyuan-zan, who hadn't suffered much damage, continued forward and passed by the monster's body. Hey, like a hot knife through butter, Jufen Kiyuan-zan encountered almost no significant obstacles and managed to split the monster in two, then flew away. "Is that all?" Suzumiya Musashi thought unconsciously. Then he felt that something was wrong. Even if the other person was a little stupid, they would never kill him so easily. Sure enough, after a few seconds, the monster's body, split in two, trembled slightly and began to writhe. One by one, the two parts joined together, and the broken pieces began to close as if melting. Damn, is this even possible? Chapter 236 Persecution. After a while, the monster returned to normal, its momentum practically the same as before. Hoha, what do you think? Are you surprised? This is my masterpiece. Isn't it brilliant and impactful? Ha. The monster closed its eyes, and its enormous mouth opened and closed incessantly. Amidst the massive vibration, its tone was exactly the same as the bespectacled supervisor's. What greeted him were flames hurtling toward him. Fire style, dragon flame chant technique, haha. The blazing flames burned fiercely. From within the flames, a pitiful cry from a giant beast could be heard. Fire style, explosive flame, wind style, wild tornado. I got the impression this monster burned to death in the end. The fire escape should work, right? The flames continued for a while. Monster. Suzumiya Musashi breathed a sigh of relief and was about to move forward and turn the substance into powder, the soup. The next instant, his footsteps stopped abruptly. Crash! Under his astonished gaze, the slime that had melted into a puddle continued to accumulate. The liquid that had seeped into the cracks in the ground was also returning. Shortly after, a monster that had shrunk several times its normal size reappeared before his eyes. How is it? Impressed, huh? You think you're amazing just because you know a few powerful ninjutsu? I'm telling you, it's useless. Your power is nothing compared to my great masterpiece. Although the monster didn't die instantly, its reduced size and weakened momentum showed that it had paid a heavy price. How long can you endure? The monster laughed and said, until you die. Boom boom boom, the ground shook. The ground exploded momentarily. A ball. Spiders, toads, tigers, wolves, pythons. Each tentacle housed a massive body. The bound beasts had their eyes closed and were breathing weakly. Strange runes enveloped their bodies, causing them to fall into deep sleep, or rather, keeping them cool. Then, the tentacles pulled the giant beast back toward them. Upon touching the body, a part melted, swallowing and fusing with the giant beast. Eat, my treasure, enjoy it. After you're done with these, there are still many more on the island. I prepared them all for you, the monster muttered to itself as it devoured the giant beasts one by one. Its size nearly surpassed that of the gray wolf and the giant bird they had seen earlier, and Suzumiya Musashi frowned more and more. He couldn't stop thinking of countermeasures. Normal physical attacks were useless. Elemental attacks like fire and lightning might be useful, but I don't know if they'll work. If the other side keeps preserving a lot of food underground, you might not be able to kill them even if the Yin Seal's energy runs out. Shadow clone technique. Bang! A shadow clone appeared next to Suzumiya Musashi and quickly disappeared. The monster saw it, but didn't stop it. Instead, it sneered, "Why are you going to ask for help? Ha ha ha, it's useless, what's it to you?" Suzumiya Musashi said spitefully. "You keep talking nonsense, but I still have to let you beat the crap out of me. Filthy trash, you?" The monster immediately flew into a rage. "How shameless, you're the one who's at the limit of your strength, the end of the road? Ha." Suzumiya Musashi sneered, "If you have the guts, hurt me first." Fire ladder, fireball. A massive fireball flew toward the monster. After being deflected by one of the opponent's tentacles, the explosive flame splattered its body, causing some superficial damage. An insult to the monster. "I can beat you, but you can't do anything to me, damn it." The monster's wrinkled face twitched, and it said angrily, "After you die, I'll see if you can still be so arrogant." With that, the monster finally took the last bite, and its body stabilized completely at a height of 30 meters. The nearly 100 tentacles on its chest became longer, thicker, and more flexible. Die! The tentacles viciously stabbed at Suzumiya Musashi. Boom! Suzumiya Musashi used his super strength to deliver a ferocious kick. The enormous stone slab and the ground suddenly rose up, then exploded from the tentacles. Suzumiya Musashi seized the moment the stone slab blocked his path to retreat swiftly. "Trust me, this is too big, damn it. This is cheating. I don't want to play anymore." He said this and ran off, cursing. Seeing this, the monster gave chase without hesitation. "Why are you running? Weren't you so impressive a moment ago? Even if you run, where can you run to? Come on, fight my masterpiece. To be devoured by it is your honor as a ninja, Suzumiya Musashi." Damn it, on the isolated island, he escaped and pursued it. He pursued it relentlessly. "Can you stop chasing me?" Suzumiya Musashi shouted without turning around. "No," the monster shouted, "you must die today. I can't exhaust all my energy running for 3 days and 3 nights. How long can you hold out with your fleshy legs? After I kill you, I'll find time to find the bird. I'll kill the rest one by one. The one with the hair on his back will become the new vessel after Inoka. Keep running. If you don't run, maybe I'll let those little things go if I feel happy." However, what the monster didn't expect was that, upon hearing his voice, Suzumiya Musashi, who was standing in front of him, would stop. "Really?" Suzumiya Musashi asked sincerely. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237, Crushing Bones and Raising Soup. No, do you really think so? The monster felt his IQ wasn't on par with the person in front of him. But it's true. I am the heir to the secret art and a scientific researcher. It's only natural that I'm smarter than ordinary people. I've been since I was young. If you kill me, could you let them go? Suzumiya Musashi gasped, as if he were asking seriously. What do you think? The monster laughed. "After I kill you, I won't let them go. I want to kill them little by little." Suzumiya Musashi understood and said, "I know people like you, your words are like farts. In that case, you'd better die." Hearing this, the monster opened its enormous, twisted mouth and laughed strangely. At that moment, the place where they were standing was no longer a lush valley. The trees and rocks were shattered, and the disordered ground was covered with rippled earth, as if it had just been through a great battle. The monster saw it, but didn't care, thinking it was just the after effects of the previous battle between the beast group and Suzumiya Musashi and the others. But at that moment, he suddenly felt something was wrong with Suzumiya Musashi's smile. He seemed too happy. "You're going to die soon, so why are you laughing?" "Of course I'm laughing at you," Suzumiya Musashi said, and under the monster's surprised gaze, he suddenly slammed his hands on the ground. "Resolve it." Sure rays of golden light emerged from beneath the earth. The golden light spread for tens of meters. The next instant, a golden light flashed and vanished suddenly, and earth and debris crashed down with a loud crash. What? The monster's body shook violently, and the narrow eyelids of its wrinkled face quivered, as if they were about to burst open. But before he could react, the ground beneath his feet collapsed. Boom! The earth shook. The monster and Suzumiya Musashi fell face first. Hot breath continued to billow from beneath their feet, accompanied by bursts of burnt smoke and a strong smell of sulfur. "Bad!" the monster roared. He knew he had fallen into a trap. This wasn't the place where Suzumiya Musashi had fought before, but a vent of flames with a sealing technique at the top. It had set a trap specifically for him. Hoo-la-la! A golden chain suddenly flew out from one side, and the falling Suzumiya Musashi grabbed it with one hand without hesitation. The chain shot into the air, and he was pulled along by it. "You hateful thing, you underestimate me!" With a furious cry, tentacles shot out from the monster's chest, suddenly extending from the ground and surrounding the trap. At that moment, Suzumiya Musashi, who had risen into the air, had already prepared his ninjutsu. Absolute Wind Ki-Yuan Slash, Ninjutsu, Wind Harvest. A massive disc of wind blade slashed down from above, and the enormous head that had just appeared was instantly split in two. Immediately afterward, sharp blades emerged from Jian Duofang's side and sliced the monster in the head. Ninjutsu, Second Wind Harvest. Jian Duofang used all his strength and launched another large-scale wind escape attack. The tentacles, riddled with holes, could no longer support themselves and tore to pieces. Then, along with the monster's body, which had been split in two, they fell together. "Monster, what the hell are you doing?" Sensing the current from the volcanic mountain, the monster knew that if it really fell, it would be almost certainly dead. After all, there is no chakra depletion within the flame. Even with its body, it cannot withstand continuous burning. As it fell, the enormous, shattered body began to close, melt, and merge. Just as it neared the ground, tentacles extended from the body, which had shrunk back to the size of a fist. Bang, 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 bang. The tentacles dug deep into the rock walls surrounding the flames, narrowly halting the figure's fall. "I must kill you," the monster roared toward the sky. But then, its cries abruptly ceased. Above its head, two large nets of golden chains appeared without warning, pressing down on it like a canopy. Wait a moment, boom, the net of golden chains crashed into the monster's head. Instantly, the monster's head fell downward. Tentacles embedded in the rock wall cracked, and pieces of debris tumbled down. Immense fear gripped the monster. "Wait, I have something to say." Boom, the second web of chains that followed didn't give him time to speak. Bang, 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 the tentacles on the rock wall could no longer resist. The magma continued to roll, producing waves of terrifying noises. However, only half a meter above the magma, a large net composed of two golden chains firmly blocked all of the monster's escape routes. Boom, boom, boom. The magma expanded and expanded. Muffled screams of chains could be heard. Above the cave entrance, Suzumiya Musashi and Uzumaki Karin stood to the left and right, chakra flowing freely, and used all their strength to perform sealing techniques, despite the surge and vibration below. 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. The fluctuations in the magma gradually subsided. Suzumiya Musashi, still a little worried, maintained the sealing technique along with Uzumaki Karin. Without the pressure of suppressing the monster, it would be much easier. It was easy to maintain the sealing technique. 10 minutes, 20 minutes. After half an hour, Komodo Feng, whose chakra had recovered, couldn't help but ask, "Is it ready?" "Even if it stewed, the fire is too high." Suzumiya Musashi and Uzumaki Karin exchanged a glance, and then Suzumiya Musashi was the first to withdraw the sealing technique. Uzumaki Karin was still uneasy, so she ignored the consumption and controlled the diamond chain to sink into the magma, then continued stirring it. Once, twice, aside from the bubbling of the magma as it was stirred, There was no other movement. It should be fine. Looking at Uzumaki Karin, who seemed to be cooking porridge, Komodo couldn't help but roll his eyes. After confirming the enemy's defeat, Suzumiya Musashi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Karin, thank you so much. Uzumaki Karin smiled brightly. Don't worry, you don't know me yet, I'm totally trust, but the one we should thank the most isn't me, but the bird. If I hadn't told Chai-Anshin there was a crater here, we don't know how long we would have had to search for it. After resting for a while, Suzumiya Musashi led some people toward the exit. The air quality in the crater wasn't very good, especially after a barbecue. The smell was even worse. Before leaving, Uzumaki Karin threw a few detonating bombs into the crater floor. Hearing the sound of the explosions and the lava tumbling down, she clapped her hands and left. Well, another happy day fighting side by side with my brother. Chapter 238 The Great Harvest of Chai-Anshin. The sea and sky were blue. On the island, a battle-scarred hill served as a makeshift platform. Around the platform sat enormous figures in rows. Though they varied in height and size, all wore serious and polite expressions, staring intently at the figure on the platform. The short-haired girl, Wei Naguo, stood on the platform at that moment, holding a loudspeaker and shouting at the top of her lungs, "The ninja master of Konoha is here, the island is at peace, Lord Musashi of Konoha is here, he is free. Why did we have to kill those people despite the danger? Because they did all sorts of evil things. They kidnapped children. They tortured ninja beasts. Think about it, everyone. You're on an island, living your lives, maybe you're all just planning to lay eggs with your mate, and suddenly you're kidnapped by ninjas. Not only are you controlled, but you're also used as food. How terrible." So it's thanks to the wise leadership of the Konoha ninja that they were able to regain their freedom. Thanks to Lord Musashi's self-sacrificing bravery, they can live a good life on the island. Everyone, now is the time to be grateful. Master Musashi's disciple needs a suitable fighting partner. It's the talented young ninja of Konoha, Tenten, as Wei Nago shouted at the top of her lungs. Chai-Anshin, who was nearby, blushed with embarrassment. If Uzumaki Karin hadn't pulled her back with a smile, she would have jumped onto the stage and knocked her down. In the end, Suzumiya Musashi couldn't stand it any longer, so he jumped onto the stage and snatched the loudspeaker from Honoka's hand. "Lord Musashi, alright, come down." Suzumiya Musashi returned the loudspeaker to Honoka and then addressed the group of giant ninja beasts surrounding him, his voice echoing throughout the venue. "First, those who killed us before deserve to die. Second, I've been attacked before, and we haven't settled the score yet. I'll give you two choices. First, those willing to become my apprentices, go to the left. If you want to be free, go to the right. Let's settle our unfinished business. I finished what I had to say." Suzumiya Musashi got straight to the point. After he finished speaking, the scene fell into an eerie silence. Just when he thought he hadn't explained himself clearly enough, a loud crash erupted before his eyes, and cows, horses, birds, and beasts crowded to the left and formed a line. Among them, a giant gray wolf with a prominent body took the lead and stood in front of Chai-Anshin and the others. He brought his enormous head, as big as a small house, close and revealed an enthusiastic and flattering smile. "You're Chai-Anshin, aren't you? You look extraordinary at first glance. My name is Hujunshin, and you can call me Zio-Hu-Hu. Shall we sign a contract?" As he said this, two large, intelligent eyes looked at Chai-Anshin expectantly, gazing at Mount Hujunshin with its strange demeanor before him and the giant beasts lined up behind it. Chai-Anshin felt as if he were dreaming. Not even in his dreams did he dare to expect to see such a scene someday. One after another, the powerful and dominant giant ninja beasts lined up to sign a spiritual contract with him. Although the contract was bilateral, this was too unreal, wasn't it? Chai-Anshin hesitated for a moment before saying, "Don't you want to test your freedom?" "Ha ha ha ha," Wei Junshin laughed. "What are you talking about? The ninja master has solved a big problem for us. Moreover, we are very happy to have a ninja partner like you, so handsome, talented, and with a limitless future." Then he looked behind him and said, "Everyone, is that right?" Yes, you're absolutely right, me too." "Well, shall we sign the contract now?" Wei Junshin turned and asked in a negotiating tone. Okay." Chai-Anshin finally regained consciousness. Seeing Chai-Anshin lower his head to prepare the contract, Wei Junshin's eyes flashed with helplessness. There were many reasons why the ninja beasts were willing to sign a summoning contract with Tenten. First, no one here could defeat the screaming ninja. Second, I still couldn't beat him. Third, I couldn't think of any way to win. That person had too many tricks up his sleeve. Terrifying physical strength and extremely fast movement speed. That was it. The opponent also knew sealing techniques, especially wind ninjutsu, which could form a large circle and slice the giant beast in two. It was terrifying. If he could develop a pair of wings, he might even consider escaping. For now, it was best to obediently sign the psychic contract. After all, the content of the psychic contract is just that, and there's no need to work on the 996. Besides, this little girl in front of him could wait many years for the day he could summon her to fight. The speaker observed the scene with a complex gaze. As a ninja, he felt the disparity of the world at that moment. He was born into an ordinary family. After discovering his talent for sealing techniques, he was kidnapped here and practiced them day after day. He worked daily as a tool, as a beast of burden for the supervisor. He didn't die young like the other children. So, although the work was exhausting and his supervisor was a complete idiot, he still found joy amidst the hardships. Until today. Seeing the girl with the double buns, lost, and a group of giant beasts, gigantic as hills, queuing to sign the contract, he felt envy. How jealous. How can there be such a difference between people? Hey. What are you looking at? Wei Nago turned around at the sound of the voice and discovered it was a red-haired girl who knew a more powerful sealing technique, which seemed to be called dazzling ice cream or something like that. Nothing, just thinking, Uzumaki Karin asked curiously. Thinking about what? I was thinking about why people are so different, Wei Nago asked bluntly. Are you saying she saved the ninja world in her past life? How could she have been so lucky? Why? She asked, also a little confused by this. She had never thought about that question before. She only knew that Suzumiya Musashi was very kind to Tenten. After all, he was the first apprentice. What else? Well, the other party was also the ninja leader of Might Guy. And, is she cute? It seems like everyone in Konoha likes this girl. Wei Nago asked at that moment. Obviously she's nothing special, but she can get all this. Aren't you jealous, me? Uzumaki Karin asked, pointing at herself. After receiving an affirmative response, she shook her head and said, how is that possible? There's nothing to envy about these, they're just spirit beasts. After receiving instruction on the 8 gates and sealing techniques from Suzumiya Musashi, her interest in summoning beasts waned. Not to mention some of them, even if it's a tailed beast, what difference does it make? Arms. Although she was only a child. Thinking about this, Uzumaki Karin couldn't help but miss the old days, or, what a nuisance, I really want to go back to my bed. What excuse can I come up with? At that moment, the two girls were worried. Chapter 239 Immortal Magic Stage 2. After you return, if your family is still here, live a good life. If you don't know where to go, you can go to Konoha and find a guy named Nojiri Oki. He's a good guy. Maybe you two can get along. Let's go. The giant bird flapped its wide wings, lifting its body high above the island, carrying Wei Nago farther and farther away. After bidding farewell to Inoka, Suzumiya Musashi and the others settled temporarily on the island. It had been a long time since he had last practiced immortality magic. His physical and mental condition had fully recovered. It was time to practice immortality magic again. Just like last time, Suzumiya Musashi found a mountain, dug a hole, and the slug filled it with a white liquid brimming with natural energy. Musashi-kun, are you ready? Ready. Plop! Suzumiya Musashi shook off his worries and jumped into the white liquid. In an instant, the pain, so familiar and yet so distant, suddenly spread to his brain. Slug waited, prepared for the possibility that Suzumiya Musashi might fall into coma. However, this time, Suzumiya Musashi was particularly persistent. He endured until the end of the training and didn't lose consciousness. His energy was increasing more and more. And most importantly, he didn't want to be swallowed by the slug again. It was almost nightfall when Suzumiya Musashi emerged trembling from the stone pit and collapsed to the ground. Great, Musashi-kun, you've become much more adaptable to natural energy. Thank you for the compliment. Suzumiya Musashi didn't want to say much. After recovering, he dressed and walked shakily toward his residence. Thus, the days of practice passed one after another. As time passed, Suzumiya Musashi's resistance to the erosion of natural energy grew stronger, and the pain that had originally pierced deep within his soul also steadily lessened. During his daily practice, His body was constantly infused with natural energy, and he felt his body changing. His subtle control over his body also grew stronger. Another month passed. Finally, one day, the ability of natural energy to corrode his body vanished, and the pain that had plagued him disappeared as well. "Musashi-kun, you're amazing," the slug standing guard at the edge of the stone well exclaimed with feeling. "Of all the humans I've known, your perseverance and practice is the most tenacious. One might even say you don't seem human at all." Hearing this, he said, "Thank you." The slug didn't grasp the complex meaning of Suzumiya Musashi's words and cheerfully replied, "You're welcome, Musashi-kun. As of today, the first stage of training in the immortal arts can be completed." Upon hearing this, Suzumiya Musashi's eyes suddenly opened. "Really?" "Yes," the slug said. "Now, natural energy no longer considers you a stranger, and you can interact with it in harmony. You have passed the first stage of training in the immortal art of the Dampone Forest. From now on, you have opened the first chasm between mortals and immortals. Natural energy is no longer as dangerous as poison to you." Suzumiya Musashi was also somewhat delighted. "After persisting for so long, can I finally move on to the next step of practice?" "Slug, what do you want me to do for the next stage of practice?" the slug said. "Musashi-kun." "Perception." Suzumiya Musashi, "Perception? Is it difficult?" "Slug, for humans, it's difficult. The first stage of immortal arts is difficult because of willpower. With humans' ability to resist natural energy, it's difficult to surpass the first level. The second stage is difficult because of talent. This stage doesn't have the pain of the first stage of practice. As long as you can sense natural energy, the rest of the practice will unfold naturally. If you can't sense it, you'll be stuck here forever. It's like a mortal trying to ascend to heaven, but there's no door to enter." Over the past thousands of years, nearly 100 humans have managed to sign a contract with a Wetbone Forest, but before you, only 3 managed to survive the first stage of Senjutsu training. The only one who passed the second stage was Lord Hashirama. Suzumiya Musashi asked, "Did everyone else fail?" The slug replied, "Yes, they all failed. Those two, like Musashi-kun, have a stronger will than ordinary people, but unfortunately, their spirits can't perceive natural energy, and the second one will never be able to surpass it." Suzumiya Musashi's expression turned somewhat solemn. He wondered, is it really that difficult to practice the immortal arts, or are only the immortal arts of the Dampone Forest like this? As far as I know, the immortal arts training on Mount Myaboku doesn't seem to have these stages. Can the toad oil of Myaboku help with spiritual practice? Suzumiya Musashi nodded. The slug said, "You're right. Only the immortal arts practice in the Dampone Forest is like this. The method of practicing immortal arts at Mount Myaboku and Raichi Cave is completely different from that of the Dampone Forest. The Dampone Forest doesn't have a method like toad oil that can help ninjas improve their perception of natural energy." Suzumiya Musashi asked, "Is there a reason for this?" "Both of them come from the 3 sacred places. As one of the 3 sacred places, Mount Myaboku and Raichi Cave are more deeply involved in the secular world than the Dampone Forest. To enhance the strength of human ninjas, they developed methods to help them perceive natural energy. The Dampone Forest is different. When it comes to hiring powerful ninjas, the Dampone Forest isn't demanding, so you signed with Hashirama Senju, known as the God of Ninja." Suzumiya Musashi grumbled inwardly. If a ninja wants to master the immortal arts at all costs, the Forest of Dampones can help. As long as they continue to inject their own immortal arts energy into the ninja's body, over time, the ninja will also be able to master the immortal arts energy. However, this is no different from the immortal arts practiced with the toad oil from Mount Myaboku. At first, the 2 adults rejected this method. Suzumiya Musashi asked, confused, "Why, slug?" "Because everything has a price. The toad oil is effective for practicing the immortal arts, but at the same time, it will also leave the mark of the Holy Land race on the human body. If the practice of the immortal arts fails, the body will become like that of a frog. This method will allow the power of the Holy Land race to erode the human body. In essence, the body is already mixed with the power of monsters and cannot be considered a pure human." Suzumiya Musashi suddenly asked, "Are all ninjas who practice the magic of Mount Myaboku like that?" "Not entirely. Only ninjas who practice fairy arts possess extraordinary qualities and can minimize the side effects of this erosion." Suzumiya Musashi remained silent, mentally assimilating this sudden information. "Slug, people who used the power of the sacred land to control natural energy were called semi-immortals thousands of years ago?" and the immortal cultivation method of my Dampone Forest can help humans break the barriers between humans and nature. As long as we cross the natural chasm, we can become true immortals. Chapter 240 Shianshin's Thoughts. A true immortal. Suzumiya Musashi pondered this phrase, wondering if it was true or if the slug was just bragging. Will he be more powerful? That's not necessarily true, the slug said. It'll sound better if you tell others. The slug felt a little regretful. It had been a long time since he'd felt such a strong desire to share. He cleaned the stone well and refilled the slug with white liquid. Suzumiya Musashi, isn't it the same as before? The slug said. Musashi-kun, it's still different. This time, you don't have to jump. Relief. Musashi-kun, now I'll teach you the secret meditation technique of the wet-bone forest. You need to use meditation to sense the natural energy on the side. Suzumiya Musashi pointed to the white liquid in the stone well and asked, "What's this for?" The slug replied, "I've injected a rich natural energy here. It's 100 times richer than nature's energy. It will facilitate your perception training, Musashi-kun. As before, don't wear tight clothing, it will reduce your perception. Wear loose clothing, or better yet, nothing at all." I see. Suzumiya Musashi calmed down and began to learn the slug's meditation technique. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. 10 days later, the sun set in the west. Suzumiya Musashi sat shirtless, cross-legged on the edge of the stone well, his eyes half closed. It seemed as if everything was silent, with only a gentle breeze between the sky and the earth. Time passed slowly. Slowly. Finally, Suzumiya Musashi opened his eyes, looked at the slug in front of him with a questioning gaze, and said in frustration, "It still doesn't work." He had been practicing the meditation technique the slug had taught him for 10 days. In 10 days, he hadn't made any progress at all. The natural energy that had caused him so much pain recently was gone, and he couldn't feel it at all. The clear, murky liquid was right in the stone well in front of him, but in his spiritual perception, he could only sense nothingness. "Slug, it's been 10 days, and I still can't feel anything. Is there any hope?" "Slug, Musashi-kun, don't be discouraged. Training isn't easy." Suzumiya Musashi wasn't afraid of difficulties, what worried him was the lack of hope. "How long did it take the first Hokage?" The slug pondered and said, "Musashi-kun, don't be discouraged. Training is up to you, Suzumiya Musashi." "Slug, however, there's still an approximate deadline. With the help of meditation and abundant natural energy, if after more than a month you still feel nothing, then basically, you can take a break." That's what followed. She had no choice but to persevere. Another half-month passed. That night, after sunset, Suzumiya Musashi opened her eyes. "Is everything alright?" Suzumiya Musashi shook her head. "Nothing's wrong." Even if she said nothing was wrong, how could Uzumaki Karin not sense the depression? "If you're not happy, just say so. No matter what happens, I'll be with you." When practicing, it's inevitable to encounter small problems. It's okay, even if you find difficulties. Who could be your opponent? Let's practice together. When the time comes, we'll join forces. Who in the ninja world could be our opponent? Suzumiya Musashi looked at Uzumaki Karin, trying hard to cheer him up, and said with a reassuring smile, "Okay, just a few minor training issues. I'm not that fragile, brother." "That's what you said. You can't worry about it alone," Uzumaki Karin said. He knew he couldn't talk much about this kind of thing, so he changed the subject, trying to divert Suzumiya Musashi's attention. "By the way, brother, Shianshin has been acting a little strange these past few days." Suzumiya Musashi turned his head sharply. "What's wrong with Tenten?" "It's nothing, it's just that, ever since she signed with so many ninja beasts that day, her training status seems to have changed. Sometimes, even when I was resting, she was still practicing." "Really?" Suzumiya Musashi asked, puzzled. Nothing had happened, so why had Shianshin's status changed so much? He stood up and said, "I'll go take a look." "Yes," Uzumaki Karin reminded her from behind. "Don't say I told you." During the break, she took a notebook from her arms and, while regaining her strength, studied the history intently. She was so absorbed that she didn't even notice Suzumiya Musashi arrive. Day after day, Shianshin jumped and quickly tucked the notes back into her arms. Seeing this, Suzumiya Musashi was also confused. "I've been doing well lately. What's wrong? Should I talk to the teacher?" No. Shianshin avoided his gaze. What are you hiding from the teacher?" Suzumiya Musashi pretended to be sad. Shianshin lowered his head. No. Suzumiya Musashi sat down next to Tenten and said, practice can't be rushed. Tell the truth, teacher, what happened? No way. It's just, he doubted himself every day. What? Under Suzumiya Musashi's concerned gaze, Tenten finally spoke. Nothing, it's just that I suddenly want to practice a lot. Suzumiya Musashi, you suddenly decided that? Why? Shianshin looked a little depressed and said, I suddenly felt like I've been living too comfortably every day. My cultivation has always depended on you, sensei. Suzumiya Musashi asked curiously, I'm your teacher, who else could you rely on but me? That's not true. Shianshin shook his head and said, even though I'm a teacher, there's no one else like him. You're the one who takes care of everything related to cultivation for me. Even spirit beasts depend on the teacher. Suzumiya Musashi was even more confused. Aren't all teachers like that? Just like parents, they've been preparing their children's future since they were little. They always say they hope the other person will take care of them in their old age and allow them to enjoy happiness from a young age. In the end, the children work and get married, but the parents are still worried about buying a house, a car, and raising them. And enjoying happiness? You might not enjoy anything until the day you die. Chapter 241 Suzumiya Musashi's New Clothes. Shianshin, I'm your teacher, you don't need to overthink it, and the important thing is that these things aren't difficult for teachers, but rather part of my practice. Compared to his neighbor, who sacrificed his entire clan, young and old, and even planned to sacrifice himself to raise his younger brother, he can't be considered a spoiled brat. No, Shianshin retorted, the teacher is very skilled. It's her ability. I can't think like that. He looked at Suzumiya Musashi. I want to be like Karin, practice hard and be someone who can help the teacher. In the previous battle, Karin was able to help you, but I couldn't, even if I was a summoned ninja beast. It was only because the distance was short enough. Teacher, from today on, I will never be lazy again. I will definitely strive to the utmost to become the strongest kunoichi. This might help you. Suzumiya Musashi was deeply moved. Good, it's great that you have this intention. The master is very pleased. As for cultivation, you must advance step by step. Don't rush. Shianshin nodded and said, I understand, master. Suzumiya Musashi, by the way, what were you looking at a moment ago? Could you show it to the master? My face turns red every day. And she whispered, nothing, just something random. Suzumiya Musashi picked up the notes. Upon opening them, I discovered they contained some experience in the practice of casting and withdrawing Dharma seals, as well as a large number of experimental records. It must have been something the bespectacled supervisor left behind when they were cleaning the base. The contents are scattered, like a diary, and not exhaustive. It wasn't meant to reveal the girl's thoughts. She tossed a notebook to Shianshin and muttered, what a mess. No serious person keeps a diary. Shianshin, just look at these jumbled things and don't worry too much. Shianshin took it as if nothing had happened and replied, yes, I see. The attitude of the person practicing seriously and wanting to help him. It gave him a feeling of happiness that his child had grown up. It's like a daughter who is still saving for New Year's and suddenly starts saving for her father's retirement. Walking along the path, Suzumiya Musashi twisted his mouth, his mind racing with thoughts. Well, even though there are many psychic beasts on the island and their strength is quite considerable, they're still rather common. The ninja world is so dangerous that these alone aren't enough. Someday I'll get a better one for the children. In the following days, Suzumiya Musashi's training made no progress. Even though I kept telling myself, just do what you must, I couldn't help but feel anxious. Just because the power of the immortal arts is exceptional, and its power level is no less than that of the 6 paths of Otsutsuki. If you perceive this level and can't surpass it, there's no way you'll learn the orthodox magic of the Forest of Damp Bones. If this is true, what should I do? Should I focus on Taijutsu in the 8 gates? Or should I seek out a training method like that on Mount Myaboku and become a demigod? Half immortal, that doesn't sound very good. One day, when Suzumiya Musashi finished his training and returned to his residence, Bai went to greet him. Musashi-senpai, it's Bai, what's up? Suzumiya Musashi said with all his might. Bai-deo, last time you asked me to help you sew loose-fitting clothes. Now that they're ready, take a look and see if they fit. With that, he handed the folded clothes to Suzumiya Musashi. He looked at them, a little dazed. Musashi-senpai, Bai asked, confused. Does it fit? Uh-oh, Suzumiya Musashi finally came to his senses. He reached for the clothes and slowly unfolded them in front of him. The familiar orange color is what he sees. The high-quality, stretchy, and flexible fabric is made in a loose, sleeveless style with a dark blue lining that can be added or removed depending on the weather. There's no need to try hard, I think it's fine. Musashi put it away and left. Shiro was left alone, staring at his back, lost in thought. Musashi-senpai's youth seems a bit bleak. In the dormitory, Suzumiya Musashi changed his clothes and looked at himself in the mirror. He was already putting on the orange training uniform, or martial arts uniform, with a loose fabric tied tightly at the waist with a belt. He watched silently. This image was familiar to him. The reason Bai was asked to make this garment was because the slug wanted him to wear loose clothing to facilitate his perception of natural energy and future practice of the immortal arts. On the other hand, it was also a kind of nostalgia and fantasy in his heart. It was his spiritual breath. With your own hands, with arduous practice, step by step, you can achieve your goals. No matter what kind of enemies are presented to you, no matter the difficulties you encounter along the way, you just want to do your best and have a clear conscience. Lately I've been feeling a little anxious, Suzumiya Musashi murmured. During this period, he was overly concerned with the gains and losses. In the past, when he practiced the 8 gates and the sealing technique, the difficulty he encountered was simply a lack of talent. A genius would need 1 day, but he would need 10. But as for the perception of natural energy, it was the difference between having it and not having it. After a long period without progress, his mindset became a little unbalanced. Practice, after all, it's just practice. If I manage it, I'm lucky. If not, what can I do? I'm still me. Suzumiya Musashi looked at himself in the mirror. His eyes gradually regained their composure. The dejection and depression slowly faded, and his eyes regained their former brightness. Practice well, do good deeds without expecting reward, youth never fades, and practice never stops. A depressed will doesn't deserve this martial arts uniform. The next day, Uzumaki Karin and the others were surprised to find that Suzumiya Musashi, who had been in poor health for some time, had recovered his spirits. With short, neat hair and a simple, fresh martial arts uniform, he radiated a confident temperament and good taste. Karin, doesn't my brother look handsome in this outfit? Uzumaki Karin raised an eyebrow. Now that Suzumiya Musashi had recovered, she no longer spoke to him with the same deference as before, but rather expressed her thoughts directly. He's not as good as a breeze, you have no taste. Suzumiya Musashi looked at Tenten with a dazzling gaze. Tenten, what do you think of the professor's new look? Handsome. Shianshin nodded vigorously. So handsome. Suzumiya Musashi, look at Tenten, what a sight. Uzumaki Karin. Chapter 242, Second Stage of Immortal Technique Training. Gas Detection Technique. While training, the slug also noticed the changes in Suzumiya Musashi. Musashi-kun, you seem to be in very good shape today. That's fine, said Suzumiya Musashi. I just understood a few things. Wearing a new martial arts uniform, Suzumiya Musashi began another day of perception training. In the blink of an eye, another morning was almost over. But he accepted the outcome calmly. While practicing meditation, his thoughts kept wandering. It is now known that natural energy is energy that is present everywhere in the universe. Normally, humans cannot perceive it. When imperceptible natural energy becomes dense enough, the human body cannot withstand it. It can harm you, and you won't even notice. Suzumiya Musashi kept thinking, how do you come up with a way to see natural energy? His experience studying sacrifices in his previous life made him think of ways to seek help from external forces. Natural energy is colorless, tasteless, invisible, and formless. It can also be harmful to life. This characteristic made him think of a substance, methane, ammonia, so in case of a gas leak, the danger can be detected in advance. What would happen if we added substances that humans can perceive to natural energy? Let's imagine a person constantly breathing gas. And over time, the ammonia content in the gas decreases. Is it possible then that one day people will be able to smell the gas intensely? Slug, can you mix other energies with natural energy? The slug was a little confused. Musashi-kun, why are you asking this all of a sudden? Suzumiya Musashi said, answer me first, please. Adding other energies to natural energy, like the 5 elements or yin and yang, we can even go a step further and allow natural energy to maintain a certain frequency of fluctuation. The slug, a little bewildered, thought for a moment and replied, it should be possible, When performing magic, you mix natural energy with your own. I can do what you say. Great. Suzumiya Musashi's eyes lit up. Slug, let's change our way of practicing. Mix a little yin-yang escape energy with natural energy and add noticeable vibrations, the slug said softly. Okay, Musashi-kun, I'll try it. After a while, the white liquid in the stone well was replaced. In addition to the rich natural energy, the new white liquid also mixed evenly with the slug's energy and, under its control, emitted waves. Suzumiya Musashi calmed his mind, practiced meditation, and felt attentively. After a while, the corners of his mouth curled upward. He felt it. In the stone well, the yin-yang escape energy was accompanied by waves, which he could easily perceive. Of course, he knew that what he was feeling now couldn't be considered natural energy, but simply yin-yang escape energy. We'll make more attempts. Slug, please use this ball energy to attack me continuously, the slug exclaimed. Attack, Musashi. Then, under Suzumiya Musashi's constant corrections, he continued washing his body at a fixed frequency. In his spiritual perception, a ball of energy containing yin-yang release was constantly purifying him, while in his physical perception, inexplicably familiar energies were also flowing back and forth. Suzumiya Musashi concentrated and immersed his mind in the perception, trying to slowly synchronize his body's and mind's perceptions. An hour, 2 hours. After a few hours, Suzumiya Musashi said, reduce the proportion of yin-yang escape energy. Reduce the amplitude of the fluctuations, and continue. Trouble, slug, the slug said. Musashi-kun, you're too polite. The position of the energy ball in his body continued to strengthen his familiarity with natural energy. During this continuous practice, he was pleased to find that his perception of energy was becoming increasingly clear. Of course, he knew it was too soon to be happy. The real difficulty lay in whether he could continue to perceive clearly and whether his body could develop instinctive memory after the yin-yang escape and energy fluctuations gradually diminished or even disappeared. He exceeded the 1-month deadline the slug had originally set. However, neither Suzumiya Musashi nor the slug stopped their training. As the practice continued, the slug gradually reduced the proportion and amplitude of yin and yang fluctuation in the energy discharge. Finally, one day, when the slug had completely concealed its yin-yang escape and energy fluctuations, it stared at Suzumiya Musashi, whose eyes were closed before it, unblinking. The tension in the air was palpable. This was the moment to verify the results of several months of hard work. Even the slug felt a little nervous. Time ticked by. Suzumiya Musashi closed his eyes, but the curve at a corner of his mouth grew larger and larger. He saw it. It was a feeling difficult to describe. Indescribable. The abundant natural energy was right in front of him. There. Finally, he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, great, slug, I did it. I feel the natural energy. I'm done. The slug also suddenly relaxed. Great. Musashi-kun, congratulations. Now you can begin the final practice of the immortal arts, the slug said. The next stage of practice will be much easier. You have already overcome the 2 cultivation barriers in the Dampone forest. The difference in your cultivation from now on is only a matter of speed. Now, I will reduce the proportion of natural energy until you can feel the free energy in nature, and then, absorb it. Chapter 243 The Immortal Technique of Suzumiya Musashi 1. The sea breeze was gentle, and the sky was clear. On a small hill on the island, 2 girls were practicing. A red-haired man, using special weights from Iwagakure, still didn't conceal his curvaceous figure. As he mechanically repeated the physical movements, sweat dripped ceaselessly, and his youthful body radiated vigorous vitality. The other girl sat cross-legged, the bright sunlight reflected off her buttocks, and a faint halo of yang energy spread over her body, nourishing her completely, rich and full of vitality like a deep, contained lake. The 2 figures were not far apart, not disturbing each other. The image was harmonious and beautiful. They were none other than Uzumaki Karen and Tenten. As the sun continued its movement, the sunlight slowly slid from the top of their heads down the mountainside. Uzumaki Karen finally stopped practicing. With a deep sigh, she stretched her tired body. After a while, when his breathing calmed, he sat down next to Tenten. Another energetic day. Shianshin, do you think we'll be here forever? The faint yang chakra in Shianshin's body gradually disappeared. He opened his eyes and whispered, how would I know? As for physical condition, it would be very difficult to maintain. Uzumaki Karen said, well, take your time, You'll get better and better. My brother is very pleased with your progress. Let's not talk about this. Did Master tell you when we're leaving? No, Shianshin said. Lately, practice has been very important, so I haven't asked. Why can't you stay longer? Uzumaki Karin said. Actually, no, it's just strange. It's nice to be here all the time. Tenten glanced at Uzumaki Karin and smiled meaningfully. As she grew older, she already knew exactly what her best friend was thinking. If it were possible, the other would be absolutely willing to stay on this isolated island with the master. But she missed the village a little. It had been over 2 years since she left. She didn't know how Ningxi and Rock Lee were doing now. Now, her and Uzumaki Karin's strength had changed drastically since they left the village, and they had both become like children. She wondered what their expressions would be like when they saw her now. By the way, Shianshin, why didn't I see your group of siblings today? Weren't they always hanging around you in the past? Especially that Grey Mountain Kun, Shianshin said. It seems the master summoned them all. Summoned them? Why did my brother send them? Shianshin scratched his head and said, I don't know either. Maybe something happened. On the other side of the island, there was a wide open space. The giant beasts that once ruled the island were now sitting in a row, surrounding a man with his legs crossed. From time to time, whispers could be heard from giant beasts. A giant bear whispered, It's been so long, why is there no movement? What on earth did Lord Musashi send us for? With your wife again? I've told you so many times to keep quiet. Every time you come, you stay for several days. The whole island is filled with your presence. Python, get lost. I'm very careful. Who else would always listen to me besides you? What do you think? Could it be that Lord Musashi saw that we've been doing well lately and wants to reward us? You've rewarded yourself to the point of damaging your head. What did you do well? The best, obviously, is that sycophant Tushin-kun. Ahem. The giant wolf king of the Grey Mountain coughed slightly to remind him, Well, everyone, be quiet. Lord Musashi must have his reasons for calling us. We just have to wait in silence. If you keep talking, be careful not to get punished. Hearing this, the giant beasts looked at the Lord of the Grey Mountain and rolled their eyes, adopting a friendly expression. You sure know how to flatter. The giant beasts were silent for a moment, and the giant wolf Heishanjin looked at Suzumiya Musashi, who was not far away, with a puzzled expression. It's been almost 2 hours since I called. What's wrong? My butt is practically numb from sitting so long. At that moment, the atmosphere in the field suddenly changed. The giant beasts raised their heads or pricked up their ears, and all looked at Suzumiya Musashi in the center. Their natural intuition made them suddenly feel a great sense of danger coming from Suzumiya Musashi. An inexplicable wave of energy spread. Then, to the surprise of the giant beasts, bright yellow lines appeared on Suzumiya Musashi's body, crisscrossing and distributed evenly across the surface of his skin. Tattoo, tattoo, exclaimed the giant bear, his eyes wide. Bang! Heishanjin slapped him on the back of the neck and gently reprimanded him. Are you a fool? It's obviously a ninjutsu technique, but it's not noticeable. In the center of the field, Suzumiya Musashi slowly opened his eyes. Musashi was in a good mood, and the giant bear said, Master Musashi, this tattoo of yours, Master Musashi. It looks very handsome. Hushin-kun suddenly interrupted the giant bear and asked, Is this some powerful ninjutsu? Suzumiya Musashi said, I suppose so. It's a method I've recently mastered. We've been on the island for a long time, but we haven't communicated well. Now that the weather's nice, let's communicate and deepen our friendship. Hushin-kun gazed intently at the setting sun. The weather was lovely, but 2 hours had passed, and it was almost dark. Suzumiya Musashi, if we want to communicate, what better way than a physical confrontation? So I suggest we fight. What do you think? The giant beasts, Suzumiya Musashi, since no one is saying anything, it means you all agree. Then he pointed indifferently and said, Hey, you're first. Come on, let's compete. Giant bear, Greek letter sigma, degree, dot. Giant Grey Mountain wolf, what, hurry up, don't dawdle, he's waiting for you. At Suzumiya Musashi's insistence, the giant bear reluctantly stood up and walked toward the center of the field. With each step they took, the ground vibrated with a dull thud. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 The Immortal Technique of Suzumiya Musashi, 2. Walking to the opposite side of Suzumiya Musashi, the giant bear looked at his small body and asked, Master Musashi, are we really just sparring? Of course. Giant bear, are you sure you don't want to use that white circle jutsu? Don't worry, it's not necessary. A ninjutsu that can cut a ninja beast in half won't scare you that much? And sparring? What a joke. Would you be afraid? However strong Suzumiya Musashi is, he's just a small human being. You should use less force and not hurt the other person. What if you make them unhappy? Who knows if the person in front of you is a mean person? Master Musashi, be careful, the giant bear warned him first, then clenched his enormous fists and lunged at Suzumiya Musashi. The huge fist hissed, but in reality, so as not to hurt the opponent, he only used 30% of his strength. In this way, if the opponent couldn't resist, he could stop in time. Of course, Suzumiya Musashi could see the opponent's intentions. The deliberate slowing down seemed too obvious to him. Facing the giant bear's enormous fist, he didn't dodge. Instead, he clenched his right fist and returned the blow just as the opponent's attack landed. The air was silent for an instant. Boom! A circle 10 meters in diameter exploded, and outside the circle, a cloud of dust rose instantly. Suzumiya Musashi chuckled, Hey, don't be so obvious about letting me win, or you'll be the one who suffers. As soon as he finished speaking, he kicked upward with his right foot. Another loud noise was heard. The enormous force propelled the giant bear's right arm upward, as if swinging in a semicircle. Feeling a sharp pain in his hand, the giant bear let out a soft cry. Immediately afterward, Suzumiya Musashi exerted force on his feet and suddenly vanished. When he reappeared, he was already under his head. This wasn't good. Then, a feeling of danger surged on the right side of my head. I heard a sharp hiss in my ears, and the next second, a small mark was imprinted on his large, furry face. Bang! The colossi present pursed their lips. Ah! The giant bear's cry of pain was suddenly heard, and his enormous body twisted in place, crashing to the ground in a great cloud of dust. Suzumiya Musashi returned to the ground and said earnestly, I told you, don't give up, use all your strength. The giant bear quickly got up from the dust. He covered his face with one hand, glared at Suzumiya Musashi with red eyes, and gasped heavily. Suzumiya Musashi's attack hadn't caused him any substantial damage. First, Suzumiya Musashi was relatively light, and second, he didn't intend to harm his opponent, but only to test his own strength. However, Suzumiya Musashi's attack caused him great mental damage. As one of the island's lords, he was knocked down by a small human right in front of him. Where was his face? Roar! The roar shook the entire island. The next second, the giant bear charged at everyone, unrestrained, using all his strength, and lunged straight at Suzumiya Musashi. He wants to avenge his shame. And he also wants to slap that bastard back. It's not to prove how strong I am, but to prove that I must regain the reputation I lost with my own hands. Seeing the giant bear out of control, Suzumiya Musashi knew that his purpose of provoking his opponent had been fulfilled, and his expression turned serious. Before learning the magical arts, he would never have dared to fight the giant beast with only his physical body. Now that he had mastered the basic skills, he wanted to see how far they could be improved. The ground trembled. The enormous body of the giant bear drew ever closer. Suzumiya Musashi slowed his breathing and intently observed the trajectory of the giant bear's limbs. When the opponent struck with a speed far exceeding his own, Suzumiya Musashi's eyes snapped open. Now, the air screamed. The ground shook. The giant bear's fist. A closed fist. He forced his arms between its fingers and gripped tightly. He exhaled and exclaimed, Ha! With a vibration of power, the earth suddenly kicked up dust, and chunks of gravel mixed with dead wood floated into the air. The next instant, the magical energy in Suzumiya Musashi's body seethed. It was as if infinite power were constantly bursting forth from his body. It sounded as if a dragon's roar echoed within him. The bear's eyes flashed red. The giant beasts watching craned their necks, held their breath, and stared wide-eyed in disbelief. Immediately afterward, the giant bear swung its massive body in an exaggerated arc and crashed to the ground. Boom! Dot. What's going on? Is there an earthquake? The loud vibration was clearly audible across the island. Tenten, who had been talking to Uzumaki Karin, jumped up. Or did that same group from before return to fight? Uzumaki Karin also stood up, confused, and used Kagura's mind's eye to assess the situation. After a moment, Her expression turned slightly odd. It's not an earthquake, Shianshin. If it's not an earthquake, then what is it? Uzumaki Karin, it's my brother. They can't see me. They can't see me. Seeing the giant beasts being knocked down one after another by Suzumiya Musashi, Haishin-kun muttered nervously. He's weak and can't withstand being thrown. As he muttered, Suzumiya Musashi looked around again. Many giant beasts were in the same state, their heads bowed nervously. Alright, let's stop here for today's friendly exchange. Chapter 245 The Problem of the Wooden Man. The cordial exchange with the giant beasts lasted only about 5 minutes. The reason it ended so quickly was that Suzumiya Musashi's current fairy technique could only last 5 minutes. As the saying goes, charge for 2 hours and talk for 5 minutes, this basically refers to his magic level. Even this is the result of his hard work and practice. According to the slug, the preparation time and effect of magic vary greatly depending on each person's talents, their affinity with natural energy, their physical strength, their mental fortitude, and their ability to absorb and use natural energy during combat. All of these factors affect the effectiveness of the magic. Not every ninja is named Senju Hoshirama. The elongation, and even the lines on the surface of his body, had become regular patterns similar to those obtained after releasing the Yin seal. During the following period, Suzumiya Musashi dedicated a significant amount of time each day to maintaining cordial exchanges with the ninja beasts of the island. As communication progressed, he became more familiar with the magical arts and gained a more precise understanding of their various abilities. First, Immortal Technique Mode and 8 Gates of Dunjia Mode are incompatible. Immortal techniques can greatly enhance ninjutsu and taijutsu, but his 8 Gates of Dunjia have elevated his body's strength to the extreme, so even immortal techniques cannot overcome the 8 Gates of Dunjia. Second, the marks formed by mortal arts on the body's surface will diminish as the art is mastered, and the refinement speed will also increase accordingly, along with greater stamina, until it can be refined at any time during combat. With his abilities, reaching this level is nearly impossible. Third, in the immortal art state, with his physical abilities, his strange strength, and the immortal remote control art, the absolute Winki Yuanzan, even without activating the 8 Gates of Dunjia, in his normal state, his power was already boom. A massive figure fell from the sky, cracking the ground. On the island, all the ninja beasts lowered their heads, dejected, looking with a certain fear at a nearby figure. He wore a loose-fitting martial arts uniform, revealing his muscular body. His defined muscles glistened like gold beneath the fine sweat. Suzumiya Musashi slowly contained his chakra, observing the group of defeated opponents before him, and for an instant his heart was filled with heroic spirit. As a ninja who had been away from the village for 2.5 years, he felt in top form. Even with Tsunade in front of him, he had the courage to approach and fight with his arm. His gaze swept over the giant beasts before him, each wearing a rigid, helpless expression. Suzumiya Musashi said loudly, "I have something to announce, we're leaving tomorrow." As soon as he finished speaking, the beasts suddenly raised their heads. "It's been so much fun being with you all during this time. I'm going to miss exchanging taijutsu with you so much." They looked at each other and noticed the ecstasy in their eyes. "Really, Lord Musashi, are you really leaving? We can't bear to be separated from you." Woo-woo. Seeing the boys express their true feelings, Suzumiya Musashi also felt a little comforted. The giant beasts stood together on the shore, looking at Suzumiya Musashi reluctantly. "Everyone, come back," Suzumiya Musashi shouted. "Don't worry about me, let's go." As they spoke these words, the island's giant beasts leaped about, waving their arms wildly. Some were so excited they shed tears. Suzumiya Musashi also waved and shouted, "We'll meet again in the future." Wow! Behind Suzumiya Musashi, Tenten gently tugged on Uzumaki Karin's sleeve and whispered, "Why do I feel like something's wrong? Those guys don't seem reluctant to leave." Uzumaki Karin said with a serious face, "You're right, those guys are crying now." Shianshin, are you reluctant, or are you just too happy? And asked, "What do you think? I hold my sword with my hand every day." After leaving the island, Suzumiya Musashi and the others steered the ship, preparing to sail around from the northeast, through the land of lightning, and back to Konoha. "It's been 2.5 years since we left, and it's time to return." According to the slug, Tsunade's recent situation in the village doesn't seem to be going very well, and her temper is becoming increasingly irritable. If he doesn't return, the woman probably won't let him have any fun. Boom! Under the clear sky, dark blue flames erupted, and fire beams flowed in all directions. As the flames rose, a charred figure suddenly emerged from them and continued falling. It was a tall, dark-skinned ninja wearing a forward protector with a Kumagakure logo. At that moment, his dark skin turned slightly black under the blazing flames. He awkwardly adjusted his body in midair and finally landed successfully on a reef. Ahem. Wow, the ninja vomited a mouthful of bright red blood, raised his head, and stared in amazement at a figure in the distance. A female ninja. She was tall and had a curvaceous figure. Not even an ordinary combat uniform could conceal her mature charm. Her brown hair was tied back in a ponytail with a ribbon, and beneath the same forward protector hidden by the clouds was a cool and beautiful face. Serena, with a cool and elegant temperament. At that moment, she looked at her opponent, who was vomiting blood, slowly sheathed the claw-like weapon, and spoke in a clear voice, "I told you, you're no match for me, ahem, ahem." "No, how do you know if you don't try?" The dark-skinned man wiped the blood from his mouth and smiled. "If I beat you, I'll make a fortune. You said earlier that only those who can defeat you are qualified to be your man." HMPH, the woman snorted, showing neither joy nor anger, simply saying, "Illusions, with your strength, you'll never be able to defeat me in this life. If you can't win, you can't win." "What's the problem?" the dark-skinned man said indifferently. "I don't think there's anyone else in the village who can beat you, except Ai and Kirabi, Yumijin. If no one defeats you, you won't die alone, will you?" Yumuran said coldly. "You don't have to worry." No, the dark-skinned man was unwilling to give up. "If a woman like you dies alone, it would be a waste of God's gift. If that happens, I'll never rest in peace. If not, let's make a deal. We can fight again and you let me win. What do you say?" "Don't worry, if I become your man, I'll certainly treat you well and make you happy every night." Boom. Chapter 246, The Bloodstained Synthesis Experiment begins. A fireball suddenly exploded beneath the man. He jumped, startled, to dodge it. "Stop, stop, stop. That's all I said." "Really? You're so kind to the villagers. Why are you so angry with me?" Yumuran Xiyume said. "It's because they didn't want me to get on board." The man held out his hands. "Don't I like you?" Yumuran didn't intend to waste any more words. "Get lost, Tisk." The man rolled his eyes and watched Yumuran's increasingly stern expression. Yumuran had been feeling a little down lately. But there was no one around to hear her talk about her frustration. As a ninja, she was the second perfect Jinchuriki of Kumagakure, feared and admired by the villagers, favored by her superiors, and admired by her peers. The cold goddess in the hearts of all the ninja of Kumagakure. But aside from being a Jinchuriki, she's still a woman. A woman who has reached adulthood, but still doesn't have a boyfriend. Considering the treatment Jinchuriki received in Kumagakure, her power, and her status, if she wanted to find a man, it should be easy. Unfortunately, after all these years, she still hasn't found the person she desires. Yumuran admits she's a bit picky. She has two requirements for men. First, he has to be clean and handsome. Second, his strength can't be much less than hers. She can't stoop to being ugly, and she's not interested in weak men. If she were just an ordinary ninja, this would be an easy matter to handle, but the difficulty lies in the fact that she isn't an ordinary ninja. She is Kumagakure's top combat force and the perfect Jinchuriki of the Two Tails Nakamata, which should earn her recognition in terms of strength. Finding a clean, handsome, strong, and high-quality man in the ninja world wasn't easy for her. Besides, this was Union. The male ninjas here were all burly and dark-skinned. They were all hard to spot. There were a few handsome and attractive ones, but they were few and far between, and too weak. She gazed at the sea before her and couldn't help but feel confused. She had a vague idea in mind, to conquer the entire ninja world, find a man she liked, love him for a while, and have a child. Even if it didn't last forever, it was better than being single her whole life. To that end, she even secretly made a list. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Hatake Kakashi of the Hokage village, Raza of the Windshadow village, Wangtu of Iwagakure village, and Famo of Takigakure village. However, as time passed, some of those on the list died, others became lustful, others ruthless, and some simply weren't attractive enough. Now only a few remained. Yumuran also grew increasingly pessimistic. "I won't end up alone, will I?" She didn't want to be a lonely Jinchuriki until the end of her life. Sage of the Six Paths, if it were possible, I would like to exchange 10 years of my life for a satisfactory man. Yumuran gazed at the sea and whispered to herself. Surely there would be no reply. After a while, she composed herself and suddenly darted forward. An elegant and slender figure, like a crescent moon, schemed across the surface of the sea. It's not yet mature. Currently, the three attributes that have been best mastered are wind, thunder, and fire. Among these three attributes, the two known to combine to form lineage boundaries are wind and fire, that is to say, blazing escape. Speaking of blazing release, we must mention the most beautiful back in the ninja world. A lone boat moves slowly across the sea. Suzumiya Musashi sat alone on the deck, silently pondering the synthesis of his lineage boundary. He felt he had a good understanding of the changes in chakra properties of the other three attributes, except for water and earth, and perhaps he could attempt research into lineage boundary synthesis. As he pondered this, his thoughts began to wander. There is a precedent in the ninja world for a lineage boundary that combines wind and fire attributes, and that is the veteran ninja Yekira, who was deserted by the Sands village. The power of the blazing escape technique is quite strong. Of course, what the cinephiles are from the beautiful backs of others. To use Jiraiya's words, perfect score. Besides the village of Konoha, she is an exceptional and powerful ninja in the ninja world. Along with Yurkido of Kumagakure, they are considered the two great beauties abandoned outside the village by gossips. Of course, she was born at the wrong time, and Yukang had long since gone out of fashion. Suzumiya Musashi thought it was because he had been returning to the village less frequently lately, which filled his mind with random thoughts. Shaking his head to clear away the distracting thoughts, he continued thinking about the synthesis of the burning escape. In the ninja world, there are two ways to unleash the power of chakra property changes. The first, which is also the one chosen by the most powerful ninjas, is to use two or more attribute ninjutsu at the same time to launch a combined attack, called a combination ninjutsu. For example, Sarutobi's Earth Dragon Flame Bomb Hirozen. However, it is generally recognized at second type. The lineage bound is more efficient and powerful. Chakras of different attributes are mixed in a fixed ratio during condensation, so they possess strange and powerful powers from the start. According to this idea, firstly, the synthesis of the lineage boundary requires mastering the changes in the properties of the chakras to a certain degree. Secondly, it is about finding a fixed ratio. If the proportions of a chakra are divided approximately into 10 parts, there are 100 possibilities when mixing the two attributes. Of course, this ratio is somewhat approximate. If we divide it into 100 parts, there will be 10,000 possible ways to mix the two types of chakras. This is just one variable, the ratio. If you add the concentration time and the movement path of the chakras, the number will be even higher. Suzumiya Musashi said that this is not difficult. There is no need to check for plagiarism, either of the thesis or to consider the impact factor. The only thing we look for is the actual effect. Very simple. It is right in the vast ocean, undisturbed by anyone, which is an ideal environment for research. Taking a deep breath, Suzumiya Musashi mobilized his body's chakra and formed hand seals. Shadow clone technique. Bang! Densely clustered shadow clones instantly filled half the deck. Under Suzumiya Musashi's command, the shadow clones were created uniformly one after another, and without disturbing each other, they began the experiment of mixing chakras in different proportions. Chapter 247 Bloodstained Synthesis Experiment, 2. Whoosh, tongues of fire flew. Bang, the air exploded. Bang, the shadow clone exploded. Huh? What are you doing? Lighting fireworks, Uzumaki Karin stepped out of the hut. Suzumiya Musashi looked at him and said, "Yes, Uzumaki Karin, ha, you look so miserable. What are you investigating now? Have you had any trouble?" "No," said Suzumiya Musashi, "it's just an inevitable mistake in a great attempt. You just learned senjutsu and you're already trying out new ones." "What? Are you planning to return to the village to become Hokage?" "What nonsense are you talking about?" Suzumiya Musashi said, "The path of cultivation has no end. I'm always exploring." Okay, go your own way." Uzumaki Karin found a clean cover, sat down carefully, and looked at Suzumiya Musashi. "Let me get some fresh air." Suzumiya Musashi ignored his opponent and continued his research. Not far away, Uzumaki Karin silently observed Suzumiya Musashi's serious profile, a twinkle in her eye. Bang bang bang, a series of shadow clones shattered one after another. Suzumiya Musashi frowned, processing the massive amount of information that had suddenly flooded his mind. When a shadow clone transmits information, It puts a great strain on one's mental awareness. Not even Suzumiya Musashi can take it lightly. After gently rubbing his brows for a while, Suzumiya Musashi's headache finally eased considerably. He raised his head, a hint of disappointment in his expression. It had been quite some time since he had attempted the blazing release Kakai Genkai. For this reason, he had to endure the mental pressure of destroying a large number of shadow clones daily. However, he didn't achieve the desired results. Starting with the basic ratio of wind and fire attributes, he assumed there was a limit to the amount of chakra of a single attribute that could be contained in a unit of chakra capacity, and he set it at 100. After simultaneously generating the second type of chakra, it is injected into this unit of volume. It is not exclusive to the chakra of the first attribute and can hold up to 100. According to this calculation, within 1 unit of volume, there are a total of 10,000 ways to inject chakra of the wind and fire attributes. If condensation characteristics, circulation circuits, and other conceivable influencing variables are added, the data will reach tens of thousands. It seems like a lot, but for Suzumiya Musashi, trying tens of thousands of times is no difficult task. To ensure efficiency and quality, he created 50 shadow clones at a time. Each shadow clone tests 10 possibilities per day, totaling 500. He tried 20 possibilities a day, which added up to 1,000. As long as he could handle the detailed information sent by the shadow clone, tens of thousands of attempts wouldn't be too difficult a task. What disappointed Suzumiya Musashi was that, after trying tens of thousands of possibilities, he hadn't obtained any results. He must be going in the wrong direction. The synthesis of the bloodline's boundaries isn't as simple as I thought. Besides the changes in the properties of the higher chakras and the different proportions, there must be more important variables that I haven't discovered. There must be more. There was a vast ocean before him. Suzumiya Musashi's eyes were empty, and thoughts kept crossing his mind. Time, space, mass, proportion. Every conceivable factor passed through his mind, but then he dismissed them. After a while, he finally had some guesses. Quality, quantity, sequence, character. This is the most essential difference in chakra. It can't be wrong. Quality should be the definitive change in properties. My guess shouldn't be wrong. The quantity, according to the idea of different proportions, isn't a problem either. Order is important. But I can try a different order, and that's not the point right now. Excluding the foreseeable options, only one thing remains, a characteristic, the property of changing nature. Suzumiya Musashi muttered to himself, his mind racing. I don't fully understand the nature of chakra changes. Extreme change in properties can't represent the characteristics of chakra, or rather, it's only one aspect of chakra. Furthermore, chakra characteristics should have more meanings. Suzumiya Musashi suddenly stood up and paced back and forth across the deck. Like wind attribute chakra, cutting and being sharp are its characteristics. Being flexible and penetrating any hole are also characteristics. Water attribute chakra has the ability to not compete with everything and the inertia of thunder and lightning, and thunder. It can represent destruction, but it can also bring vitality. The earth can build something grand, but it can also silently dissolve it. And what else does the fire attribute have besides the basic ability to burn, death, annihilation, explosion, or stability? Suzumiya Musashi unconsciously clenched his fists, feeling inspiration brush against him. The blazing release is formed by combining wind attribute chakra and fire attribute chakra. So, what role do both chakra attributes play in it? Previously, he simply thought that as long as the chakra properties were brought to their maximum level, the basic conditions for synthesizing blood would be met. Now it seemed he had been too simplistic. The change in the nature of chakra doesn't only manifest in power. Blazing escape echoed in his memory. Stable, fiery, and quick to kill. Compared to the fire escape technique, which is difficult to kill, the blazing escape technique is much weaker in terms of momentum, but much stronger in actual combat. Firm, burning. Suzumiya Musashi wondered, what kind of characteristics can the dissolution element possess, achieving such an effect? Suzumiya Musashi paced faster and faster. He felt he was about to reach that flash of inspiration. It was like pure beauty, right behind the frosted glass door. He scratched his head, but couldn't see where the doorknob was. Stable, warm. Suzumiya Musashi stopped. He felt that if he continued studying like this, he would never be able to touch the spiritual light behind the door. Musashi's mind gradually calmed. After a few minutes, his breathing became lighter. He extended his hands, and under the stimulation of his mental power, the chakra slowly flowed. A breeze enveloped his left hand. In his right, flames danced gently. He maximized his perception. 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour. Suzumiya Musashi suddenly felt it. A fluctuation of the fire attribute that he had never felt before. A characteristic I had never felt before. The only pity was that this fluctuation of the fire attribute didn't come from my own hands, but from the distance ahead. Chapter 248 The Aggressive Yumuran. In the meditative state, about 10 kilometers away, an intense and strange fire element emitted a powerful aura. Suzumiya Musashi opened his eyes. At the same time, Uzumaki Karin also rushed out of the cabin. Brother, something's wrong up ahead, there's a powerful energy wave. Seeing Suzumiya Musashi stand up and look into the distance, Uzumaki Karin's voice gradually faded. They both stared ahead from afar. As the ship moved forward, the energy fluctuations became increasingly evident, and the roar of the waves grew louder. Finally, they both saw the source of the fluctuation. Is this a battle or, Suzumiya Musashi asked uncertainly, a maritime disturbance? Uzumaki Karin's eyes also widened, her expression one of complete confusion. In the distance, I saw a huge, dark blue civet causing trouble in the sea. As its claws swung, the waves rose. Although the noise was quite loud, it sounded like a civet causing trouble at sea. Uzumaki Karin looked at Suzumiya Musashi. What do we do? Should we go there? Suzumiya Musashi didn't answer for a moment. In the past, the raccoon seemed to be going berserk. If you don't go there, the nearest sea route to Konoha is right in front of you. While he hesitated, the raccoon in the distance seemed to have spotted the ship he was on. Immediately afterward, the raccoon suddenly turned around and ran toward the ship where Suzumiya Musashi was. Suzumiya Musashi and Uzumaki Karin were startled. Suzumiya Musashi felt relieved, but his body's chakra was still about to explode at any moment. The raccoon was getting closer and closer, and Suzumiya Musashi could see it more clearly. Then, he felt that the raccoon cat seemed familiar. The dark blue texture of its body seemed somewhat illusory, not like flesh and blood. Swoosh, the enormous raccoon cat suddenly leaped. Uzumaki Karin swallowed nervously. If this massive raccoon cat were to sink, the ship would likely collapse in an instant. Fortunately, such fears did not materialize. As the raccoon cat's enormous body fell, its size continued to diminish. By the time it reached the ship, it had reached the size of an ordinary person, and then a slender woman landed on the deck. Tap tap, her body, and her long brown ponytail, fell casually behind her head. In the beautiful face full of mature charm, the enchanting eyes were now filled with a sharp aggression. Her eyes were fixed on Suzumiya Musashi. At the same time, Suzumiya Musashi was also looking at her. Kumagakure, the perfect Jinchuriki of the two-tailed Matatabi, the second, of Makuto. He hadn't expected that, even though he'd bypassed the land of lightning, he'd encountered ninjas from the hidden cloud village. However, thinking of the faint blue flame from that moment, his heart was touched. Hello. We're traveling, who are you? A sharp shout interrupted Suzumiya Musashi's introduction. Yumuto looked him up and down and spoke rudely. Tell me. Why are you here? Where are you from? Where are you going? Suzumiya Musashi, he was a little confused. Aren't the Two Tails and the Jinchuriki supposed to have kinder personalities? Why was this so different from reality? After thinking about it, not wanting to cause trouble, he explained again, we're ninjas traveling the ninja world, I'm from Konoha and I plan to return. Also, if I remember correctly, this doesn't seem to be within the maritime zone of the land of lightning, is it? Bang! The wooden man took a step forward on his long legs, the sole of his foot striking the ground with a loud thud. You remember wrong, this is the maritime zone of the land of thunder, no outsiders allowed. Suzumiya Musashi frowned and remained silent for a moment. The other party's hostility seemed too obvious. Was it pointless? Whether due to his original personality or reality, he shouldn't be so aggressive. As he frowned and thought, Ren also whispered in his heart, years? While praying in his heart, Yukito glared at Suzumiya Musashi with an aggressive look. The first impression is that he's handsome. Very handsome. Very handsome. This kind of attractiveness wouldn't be very noticeable in Konoha. Because there's also the introverted and decadent beauty of Kakashi Hatake, the cold and yandere beauty of the Uchiha clan, and before that, there's the gentle and charming beauty of the Kato clan. But Ren wasn't into that kind of attractiveness. What she liked was the attractiveness of Suzumiya Musashi before her, clean, radiant, strong, and lively. When Suzumiya Musashi was in Konoha, few people associated him with the term handsome bastard. First, the people around me seemed too familiar. Second, and more importantly, with his constant immersion in the green tights, the aura of youth and passion shone brightly above his head. When it came to Suzumiya Musashi, almost everyone thought of a bastard like Kai, some also thought of a strong and reliable ninja partner, and now, Suzumiya Musashi stood before Yukito. A sage, made especially for her. Yukito was used to seeing the orcs of Kumagakure, but at that moment, he felt as if his eyes had been washed clean. This was the person she was looking for. Of course, as a strong and principled ninja, he wasn't paralyzed by his appearance. To test the other party's mettle, she changed her persona and aggressively confronted Suzumiya Musashi. The goal was simple, to force the other party to act. Only when the other party acted would she have a chance to see their strength clearly. Her requirements weren't high. The first was to be handsome. The other party already had the highest rating. The second rule was that the opponent couldn't be much weaker than her. Since the other person was so obsessed with her eyes that they were practically growing in her heart, she could give a little leeway. Even if he was much weaker than her. Tolerant. Therefore, as long as the other person could be considered excellent among ninjas of the same age, she could make an exception. She did. Chapter 249 Blackmailing Suzumiya Musashi. This, lady, is it possible you misremembered? This place is at least 100 miles from the coast of the Land of Lightning. How could it be the maritime zone of the Land of Thunder? Ren suppressed his anxiety, leaned back slightly, and spoke coldly and ruthlessly in a cool, smooth voice. If I say it's the Land of Thunder, it's the Land of Thunder? Do you have any opinion? Suzumiya Musashi, he couldn't help but wonder if something was wrong with him, or if he just seemed annoyed. If not, why would the other party be so hostile? Alright, even though we're in the Land of Lightning, could you make things easier for us? Inconvenient. Suzumiya Musashi clenched his fists. The bright eyes of the wooden man widened slightly. At that moment, Shianchin and Bai noticed that something was wrong and left the hut. After learning what had happened from Uzumaki Karin, Tenten approached Suzumiya Musashi and whispered, Master, how about we change our route? Bai replied, Yes, Musashi-senpai. We're traveling anyway, so it doesn't matter if we detour a little. Based on Uzumaki Karin's description, this woman could transform into a terrifying 50-meter-tall beast, and she was definitely no ordinary ninja. This was the Land of Lightning's radiation range, and Shianchin didn't want Suzumiya Musashi to take any risks right now. However, upon hearing her suggestion, Ren became flustered and quickly said, We can't even detour. Suzumiya Musashi frowned, extremely dissatisfied. Although she didn't understand why the other party had that personality, the hostility was obvious. Why can't we detour? Are you deliberately looking for trouble? Seeing that Suzumiya Musashi was a little angry, Yukito became even more excited, but his face remained dominant and cold, and he said, So what? You can leave if you want. He held out his hand, 30 taels for the toll. If you don't have it, fight me. I remember well, the reward for an A-rank mission is 15 to 100 ryo. Those who get 30 taels in cash are basically jonin. Otherwise, their strength will be noticeable after a fight. He looked at Suzumiya Musashi with an arrogant expression, intending to provoke the other party. You hit me, why don't you hit me? Suzumiya Musashi, looking at Ren, whose face practically had the word troublesome written all over it, he thought about it and decided to endure it. Not that knowing the times makes one a hero. But after all, he has several younger generations like Uzumaki Karin behind him. If he were alone, and this woman in front of him dared to be so arrogant, he would strike her down without hesitation. Judging by his current strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to fight the opponent and escape unharmed under normal circumstances. In Sage mode, the win rate is around 70%, and the win rate in 8 Gates Ninjutsu mode is even higher. However, 8 Gates Ninjutsu causes him too much damage, and he needs a long time to prepare for Sage mode. After all, Yukito is a rare perfect Jinchuriki in the ninja world and an absolute cage-level ninja. She poses no threat to him, but a great threat to Uzumaki Karin and the others. 300,000 taels in toll, right? Seeing Yukito's surprised expression, Suzumiya Musashi took out his bag and began counting the money. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, here. Will you let us through? As Suzumiya Musashi spoke, he felt heartbroken. It was all the money he had worked so hard to earn from Cardo. A good conversation with Yukido about the subject of random tolls in the ninja world. What a world. If he wants to charge tolls for crossing the bridge, he has to build a toll booth in Hiruzen. It's rude to have a wooden man collecting tolls here. On the other side, Yumuto subtly observed the thick wad of bills that Suzumiya Musashi produced. He hadn't expected Suzumiya Musashi to produce 300,000 taels, and so easily. Was it because of a wealthy family or his exceptional skill? With thoughts swirling in his head, Yumuto refused to accept the money from Suzumiya Musashi. His purpose wasn't just 300,000 taels, he wasn't interested in the money. You can come in, however, 300,000 taels can only be given to the 3 girls. What I just said is 100,000 taels each, and for 3 girls, 300,000 taels. Suzumiya Musashi, what do you mean by that about me? You're older than them and you charge more than them. 500,000 taels just for you. Either you pay the money, first. Uzumaki Karan held Suzumiya Musashi's gaze and understood what he was thinking without needing to speak. My brother is furious. He grabbed the anxious Shianchan and Bai, looked at them, and they said nothing more. Then, Suzumiya Musashi and Yukido jumped out of the boat and let them go. Suzumiya Musashi didn't look at Yukido until the boat disappeared. Tell me, what do you want with me for? The 2 taels Jinchuuriki. Yukido, the wooden man raised his eyebrows and asked in a low voice, do you know me, Suzumiya Musashi? That's right, giant raccoons are rare in the ninja world. Yukido, what exactly is your purpose? That's easy. The wooden man raised his arm slightly, and several sharp spikes suddenly extended from the fingers of both hands, glowing with a cold light. I don't want your money, fight me, after the beating, I'll let you go. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Suzumiya Musashi was even more confused. Did the other party keep me here just to fight? A martial arts fanatic? This doesn't seem right. Having wreaked havoc at sea not long ago, he had the answer in mind. It was obvious the other party's relatives were here. With this thought in mind, he also better understood Jumuran's unreasonable behavior. He only had 99 points of dissatisfaction left. Since the other party wanted to fight, he naturally wouldn't refuse. The only thing left to decide was how to fight. Should they simply train, let the other party do the training and then leave, or fight seriously? But in an instant, he made a decision and his heart hit him hard. It was just a simple exchange, and the other party might not be satisfied and let him go. Besides, he was still angry about being bothered and having told for no reason. Another point, he was very interested in Yukido's fire release. The fire the opponent controlled earlier must have been obtained from the 2 taels, and it had completely different characteristics from ordinary fire. If he strikes hard and defeats his opponent, he might also find an opportunity to drain chakra from the 2 taels. Suzumiya Musashi nodded and said, alright, let's fight. For the first time, Yumuran showed a satisfied smile on his face. He raised his right hand slightly, and the sharp blade flashed coldly before his slender white fingers. Ready? Here I come. Chapter 250 Sage Mode, Fighting for the Wooden Man. Wait, Suzumiya Musashi suddenly intervened to stop him. Yumuran was stunned. What's wrong? Suzumiya Musashi said, I need time to prepare. Yumuran asked, confused. Preparation. What is there to prepare for a fight? He said indifferently, but don't disappoint me. Suzumiya Musashi didn't reply. He sat cross-legged on the reef, directly in front of Yukido, and performed a meditation technique. As the mind perceives natural energies, they gradually integrate into the body under the guidance of mental power. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 98 minutes. As time passed, Yumuran's brow furrowed more and more. Are you alright? Wait, are you still waiting? How long has it been? If you wait any longer, it will get dark. I said wait a little longer. If you hit me, you hit me. If you don't hit me, you don't hit me. What does that mean? Oh, why are you in such a hurry? Suzumiya Musashi said dissatisfiedly. Soon it will be done. Gradually, Suzumiya Musashi's aura grew stronger and stronger. Yukido also calmed down and looked at Suzumiya Musashi with some surprise. In fact, she felt a threat coming from the other person. But she didn't care. For her, the stronger Suzumiya Musashi was, the happier she was. After all, no matter how strong he was, as a perfect Jinchuuriki, she wouldn't be afraid. This man's methods are wrong, Yolv said. His aura makes me feel threatened. Not at all, Youmuuran asked doubtfully. Are you too sensitive? Yolov replied. No. His aura, let me think, it's immortal magic. Youmuuran backed away in fear, and the fish dived to the bottom. Is this magic? Youmuuran's beautiful eyes widened. As a ninja from Kumagakure, this was the first time she'd ever seen anything like a fairy technique. Sensing the powerful aura of the man before her, her first thought was surprise. Ascend. Not only did she like this man, but he was also incredibly capable. Mastering air travel magic, his strength wouldn't disappoint her, would it? Are you ready? Suzumiya Musashi stood up and looked directly at Yukito. I'm ready. As he spoke, he bent his left leg forward, moved his right leg back, and leaned slightly forward. With both hands, one in front and one behind, he assumed a fighting stance. Youmuuran observed his strange posture with interest and asked, what kind of taijutsu is this? Turtle Sage, my very own Konoha fluid flow technique. Let's go. In that case, I won't be polite. The wooden man chuckled, and then his figure vanished suddenly. A cold light pierced the air, and razor-sharp claws appeared above Suzumiya Musashi's head in an instant. When she said you're welcome, she meant it. She used all her strength from the very beginning to attack the man before her, who had been given to her by the Sage of Six Paths. She seized the wooden man's wrist. Waves of air exploded between the arms of both men, sweeping across the surface of the sea with a hiss, creating ripples. The sky glittered, and the sea roared. The wooden man looked at the man below him with an inexplicable light in his eyes. So strong. Really? The opponent received his full force attack with such ease. Physical ninja. Besides the power of the tailed beasts, taijutsu was her most powerful weapon. And today, a man who had suddenly appeared was a match for her attack. Bang! The air churned, and the wooden man and the waves receded together. Suzumiya Musashi extended his right foot. Konoha Magnificent Cyclone. As the signature move of the Konoha Goken fluid arts, it was also Suzumiya Musashi's most frequently used move. Whether to greet or end a fight, he liked to use it. The attack was about to be repelled by the wooden man. Suzumiya Musashi pushed the ground with both feet, and as the sea's surface exploded, his body moved like lightning and hurtled toward the wooden man. Boom, bang 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 bang, swoosh, sharp claws echoed in the air, and fists and feet shook the waves. As Suzumiya Musashi and Yukito continued to fight in the sea, enormous waves appeared from time to time. For an instant, the fish within a radius of several kilometers beneath the sea's surface fled. Bang 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 bang, he continued. Youmuu's eyes grew increasingly bright. Strong. So strong. Incredibly strong. The man before her was far more powerful than she had imagined. Even in Kumagakure, where everyone was muscular, few could compete with the man standing before her. She was so happy. This time, she was even a little scared, wondering if the Sage of Six Paths would truly take years off her lifespan. If so, then so be it. This man before me was worth it. As the fight progressed, she gave it her all, her movements becoming increasingly brutal and cunning. The two feline claws flashed and hissed, but the man before her always managed to dodge them at the critical moment and counter-attack in time. The powerful attack pierced the block and struck her. It stung. She also felt a strange sensation in her heart. In the intervals between attacks, she called out, "Stronger, my opponent." Upon hearing this, Suzumiya Musashi became even more violent. Bang, 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 boom, fists and feet or merely after images. With a loud roar, the wooden man was kicked hard by Suzumiya Musashi and fell into the sea. Youmuuran didn't know what he was thinking, he only knew that he had encountered an exceptional opponent who allowed him to attack freely. Before expelling the secretion from the opponent's body, he could savor the pleasure of fighting. Looking at the wooden man emerging from the sea, he said cheerfully, "Come back." As soon as he finished speaking, a figure shot out like a sharp arrow, and enormous waves appeared again in the sea. Boom, water splashed across the sky. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.